Chapter 3040. Moreover, this black figure clearly had the aura of a supreme martial artist. If not for Knight Sorrow's arrival, Jingyan would have been killed. To attack Knight Sorrow's family in the realm of gods, needless to say, this supreme martial artist must have been bribed by people from other territories. While Knight Sorrow was furious, he was not willing to give him a chance to attack. He immediately used the divine finger on him. This was a divine ability that he had just learned from the supreme longevity. With the point of his finger, a pale blue light pillar immediately blasted out. Who's there? The black-clothed supreme martial artist, who was about to attack Jingyan, immediately frowned as he noticed Knight Sorrow's attack. However, just as he was about to counterattack, his dantian was directly shattered by this finger. Who's there? I should be the one asking you these 3 words. Knight Sorrow's attack succeeded and did not give the other party any chance to escape or even self-destruct. He immediately sealed his soul and broke his disguise. After breaking his disguise, Knight Sorrow's heart skipped a beat. The black-clothed supreme martial artist in front of him was actually the Silver Spear Supremacy, Yang Tiancheng. Tell me, why did you attack my family? Before the fight for Providence, the Silver Spear Supremacy, Yang Tiancheng, had taught Knight Sorrow the Yang's heaven-splitting art. This move had helped Knight Sorrow many times in the future battles. For a moment, Knight Sorrow could not accept it. Winner takes all. What's there to say? Yang Tiancheng, whose dantian had been destroyed, revealed a cold smile on his face. There was no longer the fierce and peaceful look on his face. It was completely occupied by ruthlessness. What's going on? Husband, you're back. At this moment, Jingyan, who had been startled by the sound, came back to her senses and walked out of the room. Seeing Knight Sorrow return, she immediately burst into tears like Wu Lingfei. Jingyan, we'll talk about our matters later. This person in front of you wanted to launch a sneak attack on you just now. We have to interrogate him clearly. Knight Sorrow said coldly. Senior Silver Spear Supremacy, Yang Tiancheng? How is this possible? When Jingyan saw that the black-clothed man was Yang Tiancheng, a look of disbelief appeared on her face. Nothing is impossible. If I hadn't arrived in time, you might have already been killed. Knight Sorrow said with lingering fear. When she heard this, Jingyan frowned and said, why don't we hand him over to Exalt Zhu Feng and the others for interrogation? I'm afraid it's not appropriate for us to interrogate him alone. All right. Knight Sorrow replied and transmitted his voice to Supreme Ancestor Phoenix. When Paragon Ancestor Phoenix arrived and saw what was happening, she immediately transmitted a message to the other Paragons in the God world. When these supreme beings arrived, they couldn't believe their eyes. No one believed that the Silver Spear Paragon, Yang Tiancheng, would do such a thing. However, Knight Sorrow cultivated the power of virtue and never spoke nonsense. Naturally, they would not doubt Knight Sorrow. Everyone, bring him back to the City Lord Mansion for interrogation. When the numerous Supreme Beings arrived, Supreme Being Zhu Feng immediately gave the order to bring Yang Tiancheng back to the City Lord's Mansion. Then, she and the other Supreme Beings began to interrogate him. During the process of interrogating Yang Tiancheng, Knight Sorrow did not participate. After going through a series of battles, he was a little tired. That night, he talked to Jingyan for a while before resting with her. The next morning, Supreme Ancestor Phoenix came to look for Knight Sorrow. He told her the whole story. It turned out that the Silver Spear Paragon, Yang Tiancheng, had already defected to a subordinate territory of the Moon Shadow territory. He had received the order to kill Knight Sorrow's family. After saying this, Supreme Ancestor Phoenix asked, Knight Sorrow, how do you think we should deal with him? Kill him directly, or what? Senior Ancestor Phoenix, just make the arrangements. However, since such a thing happened in the God world, we must be more vigilant in the future. After saying this, Knight Sorrow asked, by the way, Senior Ancestor Phoenix, how was the matter in the Supreme Space? Are there people from other territories waiting for us? Such a thing happening in the main city of the God world gave him a very bad feeling. Knight Sorrow wanted to quickly rescue the 2 deputy city lords and return to take charge of the situation. Sigh, don't mention it. A few days ago, we sent people to investigate. As soon as they entered the supreme space, they were killed by people from other territories. They'd gone too far. Supreme Ancestor Phoenix said with a gloomy face. Senior Ancestor Phoenix, how many supreme beings are there, and how strong they are? Night Sorrow continued to ask in detail. I'm not sure about their specific strength. There are about 20 to 30 of them. They are scattered outside the passage of our God World territory. If many of us enter, they will immediately gather a large number of supreme beings, making it impossible for us to go in. Supreme Ancestor Phoenix sighed. Now in the God World territory, the strength of the sovereigns had increased qualitatively. Other than Night Sorrow, everyone who participated in the battle for Providence had advanced to the half-step supreme being level. This was something unimaginable in the past. Senior Ancestor Phoenix, I'm clear about the matter. You have worked hard, Night Sorrow said, and sent Supreme Ancestor Phoenix away. Then he gathered everyone who participated in the battle for Providence in Jing Yun's small courtyard. After setting up the defense, he said, I'm sure you all are clear about what happened to Jing Yun. Now in the God World territory, I'm afraid there aren't many people who can be trusted. I can only trust you all. In a few days, I will enter the supreme space to investigate. But I don't feel at ease asking other supreme beings to come with me. Who among you is willing to take the risk with me? Everyone in front of him had gone through life and death together. Night Sorrow trusted them. I'm willing. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Myriad Sword Sect was the first to answer. He didn't have any consideration, so he answered faster than anyone else. After Myriad Sword Sect finished speaking, Xiao Tianxian also responded, Of course I'm willing. At this time, Morong Jinlu said with a smile, Ha! Night Sorrow, you should be the one who's unwilling, right? We are all brothers who have gone through life and death together. Naturally, we will enjoy blessings and endure hardships together. That's right. We are all willing to fight side by side with you. Yuan Fengxue also nodded. Her statement was quickly affirmed by the others. Seeing that everyone had agreed, Night Sorrow said in a good mood, Then let's completely form a gold team. Let's stand side by side. However, if a worker wants to do a good job, he must first sharpen his tools. It's time for me to distribute the champion's reward to everyone. No, you are the one who fought for the championship. You keep it to break through to the supreme realm. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Jin Xian immediately retorted. Like Jin Xian, the others were not willing to accept the gift. After all, Night Sorrow had chosen to let them recover their strength in front of Yin Hengshi, and everyone had already taken advantage of it once. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to get this championship. Everyone should share it together. As for me advancing to the supreme realm, it should be in the supreme space. Night Sorrow recalled what the Supreme Longevity had said and guessed that he should be able to advance to the supreme realm in the big and small grotto heavens. Clan M. Chapter 3041. At this time, Xiao Tianxian said, How about this? Jingyun's strength is relatively weak. Let her absorb these resources and strive to advance to half-step supreme being. Strive to catch up to us and advance in the grotto heavens together. Yes, that's fine. It's already a pity that she didn't participate in the War of Providence. This time, we must make up for this regret. Let's go together. Hearing Xiao Tianxuan's words, Yuan Fengxue immediately agreed. At this time, she stood together with Wu Lingfei and Jingyun. Not good. This is not good. I didn't do anything. I can't enjoy the rewards alone. Jingyun embarrassedly declined. No need to be embarrassed. Our strength has reached a bottleneck. Relying on these rewards alone, we can't advance to supreme being. You can use these resources to cultivate at ease. Seeing that Jingyun was unwilling to accept the resources, Wu Lingfei immediately persuaded. Then, Murong Jinlu and the others also persuaded her. In the end, Jingyun accepted the Supreme Being and Earth Supreme Being's law and essence. Night Sorrow, when are we leaving? After Jingyun accepted the things and began cultivating, Myriad Sword Sect asked with interest. No hurry. We just returned. Someone must be watching us. Currently, There must be a traitor in the realm of the gods. We need to wait for the other party to lower their vigilance before leaving. Night Sorrow said, and continued, we need to create the illusion that everyone is trying to advance to Supreme Being. Then sneak into the Supreme Being space. What we need now is the map of the Supreme Being space. Otherwise, we will be very blind when we enter. Leave the map to me. I can handle it. My grandfather definitely has it. Jin Xian said and continued. Do you want me to go get it now? Go. I'm not suitable to go with you. Brother One will go with you. However, you don't just need to get the map. You also need to set up a few teleportation formations in the hunting area. Night Sorrow looked at Jin Xian and said. Then, Jin Xian and Myriad Sword Sect went to P City together. According to Night Sorrow's instructions, they set up the teleportation formations. The teleportation formations were naturally used by Night Sorrow to shake off some supreme beings. After the two of them left, Jing Yin entered a state of cultivation. As for the champion's reward that Night Sorrow had brought back to a lesser dominator, it was simply heaven-defying. After absorbing for more than a month, she had directly advanced to the middle-level dominator rank. This speed of improvement didn't seem like something a sovereign could achieve. It was precisely because her strength had increased too quickly that Jing Yun's state of mind was somewhat affected, and she did not dare to continue cultivating like this. At this rate, she should be able to reach half Martial Highness in less than 3 years. This cultivation speed was like that of a low-level cultivator who had just started cultivating. This wasn't something a ruler should have. After Jing Yun told Night Sorrow about her state of mind, Night Sorrow smiled and said, you don't have to feel burdened. Look at how many years we've been participating in the Battle of Providence. I've already advanced from the Divine King to a half-step supreme. Although you've improved a lot after we left, the gap is still very obvious. Therefore, it shouldn't be a problem for me to quickly increase my strength. Is that so? In the divine world, anyone who could advance to the dominator rank within a few epochs was a top genius. At the eternal supreme level, with the support of large amounts of resources, the speed of advancing to the dominator rank was more than 1,000,000 times faster. At this time, Jing Yun was still somewhat confused and felt that everything was too dreamy. Jing Yun, it's like this in the eternal supreme world. If you can't keep up with the pace, you'll be eliminated. The speed of improvement here is faster than in the divine world because this world is more advanced and more cruel. After Night Sorrow said this, he continued, to tell you the truth, it won't be long before the eternal supreme world welcomes a terrifying calamity. Do you know how strong our opponents are? Not supremes, not earth supremes, not sky supremes, but ultimate supreme. Imagine how big the difference is. If we don't quickly increase our strength, how can we fight against them? Night Sorrow, is what you said true? Hearing this, Xiao Tianxian and the others all became solemn. This was no ordinary matter. Every word is true, and the source is very reliable. The enemies we are about to face are from the same era as Yin Hengshi. Moreover, in the last great calamity, he had killed Yin Hengshi and severely injured another senior. Moreover, they killed all the other experts in the eternal supreme world and absorbed all their energy. The people in our eternal paragon realm are all newly matured. Night Sorrow said with a solemn expression. The 3 sovereigns in the foggy area were definitely the greatest threat to the eternal supreme world. Originally, Night Sorrow didn't want to talk about this matter in detail, but because of Jing Yun's cultivation, he couldn't help but say it. By the time Yishang had finished explaining the matter, no one present said a word. They knew the seriousness of this matter. After a long silence, Jing Yun broke the silence and said, I understand. I won't be a burden to everyone anymore. After saying that, Jing Yun returned to the secret chamber to cultivate. A year later, Jing Yun successfully advanced to an intermediate dominator. 2.5 years later, she successfully advanced to an upper dominator. At this time, Jing Yun originally wanted to continue cultivating, but Jin Xian and Myriad Sword Master returned, indicating that the matter had been settled. Thus, Night Sorrow called Jing Yun out of her cultivation state. He said to everyone, this time, We are going to Grotto Heaven to save the 2 deputy city lords. However, there are traitors in the Divine World territory, so we need to do it secretly. Everyone, follow me to the hunting area. Let's get rid of some of the spies." Okay. The others present didn't say much, but they were full of fighting spirit. Then, Night Sorrow led them into the hunting area. The hunting area was a barrier that Supremes couldn't easily attack, but if they just stepped in, it wasn't a big deal. Night Sorrow and the others had just entered when someone followed them. "Someone is following us. It should be Supreme Luha. We are fully capable of killing him, but there's no need. We have to create the illusion that we have entered the forbidden area and use the teleportation array to leave. If our true destination is exposed, there will definitely be many Supremes in the Supreme space to kill us." After Night Sorrow finished speaking, he led everyone into the forbidden area. This time, when he entered the forbidden area again, he felt completely different from the last time. Those golden wild beasts that had been difficult to deal with in the past were no longer a threat in his eyes. However, when he saw the stone coffin in the forbidden area again, he still felt that he couldn't see through it. Because of this, he didn't meet the Supremes who had helped him before. However, the eggs that he had come into contact with had already hatched. After he found them, he gave them some resources. Then, he kept everyone in the Grotto Heaven, used the concealment rune, and left the forbidden area. Chapter 3042. When Night Sorrow led the group out of the forbidden zone, the supreme beings outside were still monitoring them. Moreover, 3 of them appeared at once. Aren't they afraid of being exposed for spying on us so blatantly? Wan Jianzong, who was hiding in Night Sorrow's space Grotto Heaven, said unhappily when he saw the supreme beings after Night Sorrow's reminder. Hearing this, Night Sorrow sneered. "Do you think it's a good thing to join other territories? They must have made some kind of oath that they must do whatever the other party asks of them. Pitiful people must have something to hate." Wan Jianzong said disdainfully. If the heavenly realm wasn't facing a crisis, they wouldn't have made such a choice. At that time, the heavenly realm was in danger. It's understandable that they joined other territories. Night Sorrow glanced at the 3 supreme beings who didn't notice him and said coldly, "It's understandable, but unforgivable. Yes, absolutely unforgivable." Yuan Fengxue said disdainfully. Most of the cultivators were very righteous. They could not accept the act of betraying their own territory. "What's our next step?" At this time, Xiao Tianxian asked. "Just in case, we'll use the teleportation portal. After a few teleportations, we'll go to the Supreme Space. Everyone, be careful. When we reach the Supreme Space, we might encounter the Supreme Beings of other territories. A battle will be unavoidable. Moreover, the other party should be Supreme Beings, whose cultivation realm is higher than ours. When we fight, we must ensure our own safety." Night Sorrow said and led the group to use the teleportation portal. They teleported 7 to 8 times in a row. They successfully appeared at the entrance of the Supreme Space. At this time, there was no one at the entrance of the Supreme Space. This was normal. After all, the heavenly realm was targeted by other territories. As long as they entered the Supreme Space, they would be intercepted and killed. This also caused the heavenly realm's territory to not have anyone enter the Supreme Space for many years. Let's go. After so many years, no one has entered. The Supremes of the other territories should have relaxed their guard by now. After all, they still have to cultivate. Seeing that there was no one at the entrance of the Supreme Space, Xiao Tianxian said, "Something's not right." At this moment, Yi Shang's brows furrowed. He discovered that there were several image crystals at the entrance of the sovereign space. Although Night Sorrow had a concealment rune on his body, this kind of image crystal could record the patterns of energy fluctuations. Upon closer inspection, there was definitely someone who had entered. After Night Sorrow told them about the image crystal, Master of 10,000 Swords said, "What's there to be afraid of? By the time they realize that we've been here, everyone will be long gone. It won't delay the rescue. But after being discovered, it will be very difficult for us to come back." Night Sorrow said with a frown. If the hostile forces found out about their entry, they would definitely arrange for many supreme beings to block their way back. It would be difficult for the people in front of him to come back. That is a problem. Destroying the crystal won't work either, Yuan Fengxue said with a frown. These few image crystals have become a problem. At this moment, Night Sorrow sent a voice transmission to Restriction Breaker and Little Seven. Do you have any ideas? The image crystals set up by the enemy look very simple, but they're made by an Earth Supreme Being, so it won't be so easy to destroy. After observing for a while, Little Seven said. Restriction Breaker's male hammer also said, that's right. It's easy to destroy them, but it's almost impossible to do so without alerting the enemy, unless they have the strength of a Sky Supreme Being. Forget it. In that case, we'll just go in like this. We'll talk about it when we come back. Maybe when we become Supreme Beings, the Supreme Beings from the other territories will be useless. Indeed, there was no other way. Night Sorrow, who did not want to waste any more time, did not hesitate and directly entered the sovereign space. After entering the sovereign space, Night Sorrow sent a voice transmission to everyone. There should be many Supreme Beings from the enemy territories nearby. There are too many people, so I won't let everyone out for now. All right, you have the best movement technique, the strongest strength, and the eye of the Mirage Dragon. You should hurry, Jin Xian said as he handed the map to Night Sorrow. The big and small grotto heavens are not too far away from us. If nothing unexpected happens, we can reach it in 3 months. Night Sorrow scanned the map with his divine spirit and memorized everything on it. In the sovereign space, he directly flew in that direction. Below them, there were some unknown tall ancient trees. In the ancient trees, there were many sovereign-level ferocious beasts. Some of the ferocious beast kings even had the strength of a supreme being. Night Sorrow used the eye of the Mirage Dragon to observe and found that there were many supreme beings' spiritual herbs nearby. However, he did not go down to snatch them. For the people of the heavenly realm, if they wanted to further strengthen their foundation, they would have to absorb as many Earth Supreme Being items as possible. Therefore, in Night Sorrow's opinion, although Supreme Being items could be absorbed, they were not necessary. This sovereign space doesn't look that scary. After flying safely for 5 days, Master Wan Jian in the grotto heaven sighed. Yishang chuckled and said, that's nothing. According to the map, we won't be able to reach the end of the sovereign space even if we fly for hundreds of years. The area is huge. What we see now is only the tip of the iceberg. Moreover, there are too many supreme beings targeting our heavenly realm, so there are too many ferocious beasts around. Therefore, we didn't encounter any danger after flying for 5 days. That's true. Master Wan Jian transmitted his voice. The others also laughed and chatted. Fellow Taoist, please wait. However, just as they were chatting, a shout suddenly came from not far away. It was the voice of a male cultivator, but it sounded very strange, like the roar of a wild beast. What can I do for you? Night Sorrow turned to look at the other party. It was a cultivator with a human body and a leopard head. His aura indicated that he should be an intermediate supreme being. Oh, half-step supreme being? You're not even a supreme being. Why did you enter the sovereign space? Aren't you afraid of dying here? Seeing that Night Sorrow was only a half-step supreme being, the leopard head supreme being immediately asked doubtfully. He did not immediately show any hostility. I'm afraid, but I want to advance to the supreme being level here. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. Night Sorrow replied and directly took his leave. The other party was most likely an enemy of the heavenly realm. He did not want to waste time talking, nor did he want to make a move for no reason and attract a large number of enemies. Wait, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Are you feeling guilty? Are you from the heavenly realm? Seeing that Night Sorrow wanted to leave, the leopard head supreme being's eyes suddenly lit up. Clan M. Chapter 3043. It had been a long time since someone from the heavenly realm appeared in the supreme space. When he saw Night Sorrow, he subconsciously thought that he was from another territory like him. It's been a long time since someone from the heavenly realm appeared. I'm the same as you, waiting here. But I didn't find anything, so I prepared to go to other areas to look for opportunities. Yishang's expression didn't change as he replied. There were many dangers in the sovereign space. He felt that it was better to avoid trouble, so he explained patiently. No, your aura doesn't seem like you're from another territory. You're from the heavenly realm. Haha, today I, Hu Bao, am in luck. Surrender now. Hu Bao laughed loudly, took out a Chong flute, and blew it. Not good. He's summoning others. Let us go out and kill him together. Hearing the flute, Master Wan Jian immediately shouted. It's true that whatever you hate, you'll get it. But don't worry, I don't need you guys. Night Sorrow transmitted his voice and directly shot Hu Bao with the divine finger. It directly destroyed the Dantian of the intermediate supreme space. Divine finger? Isn't that a long-lost ability of the heavenly realm? You're really from the heavenly realm, and an important person. You can't escape, you can't escape. Hu Bao shouted angrily after his Dantian was destroyed. But by the time he said those words, Night Sorrow had already destroyed his deity ocean. Brother Yi, amazing. A middle supremacy was actually insta-killed by you. Seeing that Yi Shang had killed the leopard fox in one move, the Myriad sword sex master in the heavenly abode praised. He originally thought that since they were all half-step supreme space, their strength should be about the same. But Night Sorrow's move just now made him give up on that idea. Not only did the gap between them not shrink, but it also widened. Xiao Tianxian asked curiously, Night Sorrow, what was that move just now? Its terrifying attack power is unheard of. This absolute art is called God's Finger. It's a long-lost divine ability of the God world. You can learn it after you've advanced to the supremacy stage. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to keep it. After all, if I learn this kind of divine ability, I have to prevent it from being leaked. As Night Sorrow spoke, he sped up. The identity he used was not the 9 mystical lands mystique, but it was derived from the 9 mystical lands mystique, mysterious sky shadow. It was called the secret shadow of God. This movement technique was much stronger than the profound sky dragon roaming steps. His speed had almost reached the level of a half-step earthly sovereign. However, although Night Sorrow's speed was fast, he was still quickly discovered by another supreme martial artist. After this supreme being discovered Night Sorrow, he didn't immediately attack. Instead, he transmitted his voice to the other supreme beings nearby. To ordinary cultivators, facing 5 supreme beings alone with a half-step supreme being was a nightmare for them. The scholarly man and the others also thought so. However, they soon realized that their way of thinking was completely wrong. Night Sorrow's strength was far stronger than they imagined. His true strength was close to half-step supreme being. Coupled with the golden heavenly halberd, he was simply unstoppable. In the process of the battle, the scholarly man and the others had already transmitted to the other supreme beings nearby. They knew that they couldn't take down Night Sorrow and the others at all. Therefore, as the battle progressed, Night Sorrow and the others found that although they were constantly killing supreme beings, the enemies were obviously increasing. Brother Yi, we can't go on like this. Although our strength is enough, we can't handle so many people. If this continues, the local supreme beings can't go more than 100. In the process of the battle, Murong Jinlu said with some worry, That's true. The enemy supreme beings are like ants, more and more. We can't continue to waste time. Night Sorrow, who had already killed more than 10 supreme beings, saw that the number of enemies had increased to more than 20. He was ready to completely explode. He immediately used the Treastrimsa battle secret technique and raised his aura to the strongest, and summoned Little Seven. He ordered, Little Seven, explode your ability and absorb all these people. As for the chaotic heavenly crystal beast, after the Battle of Providence ended, it had absorbed a large amount of Earth's supreme beings' laws and essence, and was in a deep sleep. It should be about to advance from middle supreme being to upper supreme being. Night Sorrow didn't disturb it. Clan M. Chapter 3044. Let me try. I don't know why, but I can feel a strong suppression in this sovereign space. I'm afraid I can't fully unleash the power of an earthly sovereign. After Little Seven was summoned, he immediately felt that something was wrong. After giving it a try, he realized that this was indeed the case. At most, he could only exert the power of a half-step earthly sovereign. It seems that Senior Longevity was defeated not only because he was poisoned or besieged, but also because of the suppression of the sovereign space. After hearing Little Seven's words, Night Sorrow immediately thought of the fall of Supreme Longevity. The suppression of the sovereign space was definitely a nightmare for Supreme Longevity. However, after Night Sorrow understood this, he immediately calmed down. With the suppression of the sovereign space, the earthly sovereigns from other territories wouldn't dare to appear. After all, those peerless experts treasured their own feathers. He didn't want to repeat the same mistake as Supreme Longevity. This way, Night Sorrow and the other earthly sovereigns in the realm of gods would have a much better living environment in the sovereign space. After all, without the existence of an earthly sovereign, Night Sorrow would soon have no natural enemies. Brother Yi, there are more and more enemies, and many earthly sovereigns from other territories are rushing over. What should we do? Muron Guides, who was in the middle of the battle, saw Night Sorrow's eyes and knew that he was thinking about something. However, the current development of the battle was extremely disadvantageous for the people in the realm of gods. If the battle continued, they wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Injuries and even death were inevitable. It's okay, I haven't unleashed my full power yet. Night Sorrow replied to Muron Guides. Then, he transmitted his voice to Little Seven. Since you can't unleash your full power, let's work together. I'll defeat one, and you'll absorb one. Okay, that's easier. Little Seven replied excitedly after hearing Night Sorrow's words. You guys have bullied the realm of gods for long enough. From today onwards, this situation will completely change. Night Sorrow, who was holding the golden heavenly halberd, placed the small tower on his shoulder and completely activated the flames of the Phoenix battle armor. The Phoenix battle armor on his body had actually been damaged many times. However, the magical thing about it was that every time it was destroyed, it would successfully be reborn. Its strength now reached the level of a sovereign. Huh, Ignorant Junior, you think that you can shine in the fight for Sovereign Rank's destiny? You think you can wreak havoc in the sovereign space? If you focus on cultivating for a few eras, you might be able to, but use wrongs came too early. Everyone attack together. Today, our priority is to kill this little bastard who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Zhu Xian's sovereign space was surrounded the nines, sovereign spaces his sovereigns. Sovereigns at his command. As to have a sovereign heavens as sovereign titus as origin sovereigns, as Sephri spoke. A few sovereigns gave up on dealing with the others and surrounded Night Sorrow. In an instant, the number of sovereigns surrounding him had increased to 7. Little bastard, you dare to kill Xianxing Yu of the Nine's origin sovereign? Let's see how you'll die today. Supreme Zhu Xian, who was attacking Yishang with the other 6 Nine Heaven Supremes, clenched his teeth and roared. He then executed an ultimate move at Yishang. Heavenly Heaven Slash. The half-step, earthly, sovereign Zhu Xian's attack was extremely powerful. He looked like he was in a fight with his life on the line. Amazing. How can we still attack? When Zhu Xian attacked, the other 6 sovereigns even forgot to attack. In their opinion, this attack had reached the limit of his sovereigns. And Night Sorrow was a half-earth sovereign. Everyone felt that Night Sorrow would definitely be killed by this attack. Night Sorrow, be careful. This attack isn't simple. Little Seven, who was on Night Sorrow's shoulder, also rose. It also realized the power of this attack. Don't worry, if it was in the past, I don't think it would be easy for you to take this attack. But now, I've already learned the Nine's origin sovereign's divine ability. This attack of his is derived from the origin sovereign's divine ability. I can easily break it. Night Sorrow, who had activated the Clam Dragon's Eye, could see that Zhu Xian's attack was derived from the Nine's origin sovereign's divine ability, Mysterious Sky Secret Shadow. As the true wielder of the Mysterious Sky Secret Shadow, he naturally had an innate advantage against Zhu Xian's Heavenly Heaven Slash. You'll follow in Xian Qingyu's footsteps soon. Facing the Heavenly Heaven Slash, Night Sorrow roared and attacked with the God's Spear. This move was developed from the fusion of the God's Finger and the Mysterious Sky Secret Shadow. In fact, the Eternal Sovereign's divine ability all came from the Myriad Dao divine ability. However, Night Sorrow had not noticed this before. Now, the Black Heaven True Self Slash's ultimate technique made him realize this. God's Spear? Why does this move have the shadow of the Mysterious Sky Secret Shadow? Seeing Night Sorrow unleash the God's Spear, Supreme Zhu Xian's pupils immediately constricted. However, this thought only flashed across his mind, and he did not say it out loud. Night Sorrow, who had successfully dodged the Heavenly Heaven Slash, pierced his dantian with a spear. Although the power of this spear that Night Sorrow had fused with was inferior to the God's Finger, its destructive power was similarly astonishing. It directly pierced through Supreme Zhu Xian's Fangyu robe and body. Impossible! How is this possible? Supreme Zhu Xian did not expect that Night Sorrow had already grasped the core divine ability of the Nine's origin sovereign. Having his dantian pierced through in one strike, his face was filled with disbelief. Nothing is impossible. If I can kill Xian Qingyu, I have the ability to kill you. Night Sorrow did not wish for Supreme Zhu Xian to reveal the secret. Without giving him a chance to continue speaking, he directly crushed his divine soul. Supreme Zhu Xian, who came from the four great holy lands, was completely killed by Night Sorrow in a single exchange. This time, the rest of the supreme martial artists were completely shocked. They instantly understood that a ruthless person had appeared in the realm of the gods, and his current cultivation level was only half a step away from being a supreme. They did not dare to believe that when Night Sorrow grew up and became a true supreme, what kind of combat power would he have? This Night Sorrow is not easy to deal with. Summon the top supreme martial artists. After being stunned for a moment, the 6 supreme martial artists who were besieging Night Sorrow began to communicate with each other through telepathy. Then, they did not dare to be careless and attacked Night Sorrow together. They wanted to win with numbers. Even Supreme Zhu Xian was killed in one strike. None of you are even half a step away from being an earthly sovereign. You still want to defeat me? After the small pagoda sucked Supreme Zhu Xian in, Night Sorrow and the other 6 supreme martial artists began to fight. Although the other party had the advantage in numbers, he was not afraid. However, the problem now was that they could not continue to fight because the supreme martial artists from other territories were still rushing over. Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3045. However, what surprised Night Sorrow was that the other people in the heavenly realm were much stronger than he had imagined. Myriad Sword Sect and Shao Tianxian, who had been healed by Yin Hengshi, were not weaker than the other supreme martial artists. They were even more powerful than before. Furthermore, Myriad Sword Sect even killed an intermediate supreme martial artist one-on-one. Although Shao Tianxian did not kill a supreme martial artist one-on-one, he was able to disintegrate one supreme martial artist. He had to use a secret technique to barely escape. The other sovereigns were not as strong as the 2 of them, but everyone, including Jing Yun, was very valiant. Their combat power had increased by a lot, especially Wu Lingfei, who was already vaguely catching up with Myriad Sword Sect and Shao Tianxian. Facing a supreme martial artist alone, she was able to force him to retreat. Very good. Everyone's collective improvement is a rare good thing for the heavenly realm. While fighting, Night Sorrow was also paying attention to the other people in the heavenly realm, afraid that someone would be in danger. At first glance, he realized that he was worrying too much. After the baptism of the battle for Providence, The people in the heavenly realm had already grown into independent experts. If the original team participated in the battle for Providence, the heavenly realm would definitely be able to easily win the championship. Bastard, you dare to be distracted when fighting 1 against 6. Now, Night Sorrow was actually paying attention to the other people's battles in the battle. The few supreme martial artists who were fighting with him were completely enraged. One by one, they used their ultimate skills to fight with their lives. Night Sorrow, be careful. Although the supreme martial artists were not as strong as Supreme Zhu Xian individually, the 6 of them were fighting with their lives on the line, so the threat was obviously greater than Supreme Zhu Xian. Little 7 immediately reminded him, "No worries. Although there are 6 of them, they're not a whole. Just defeat them one by one. But time is tight. We can't waste too much time with them. Attack. It must be a fatal blow." After replying to Little 7, Yishan withdrew his consciousness. Holding the golden heavenly halberd, he used God's shadow to dodge the attacks. At the same time, he unleashed a divine essence, trapping formation, and divine finger at one of the primes. He cleanly shattered his dantian. God's finger? What he used seems to be the long-lost God's finger. Could he be the reincarnation of supreme longevity? Seeing Night Sorrow shattering a supreme martial artist dantian from a distance, some of the supreme martial artists present, the divine ability of the realm of the gods, had disappeared for many years. Now that it had appeared once again, they began to doubt it. Whether he's reincarnated or not, quickly. He can use divine abilities, but we can't. How are we going to fight him? After Yishang displayed the long-lost divine ability of the god realm, many Supremes began to fear him. Their god. It was rumored that the divine finger was the strongest attack of the Eternal Supreme. No one could withstand it. No one wanted Night Sorrow to open a hole in their body. God, another. After Yishang heavily injured the Supreme Being in front of him, Little 7 let out a human-like laugh and put him into the small pagoda. He turned it into rules and essence. Then, when they fought Night Sorrow again, the remaining supreme martial artists changed their tactics. They no longer fought with their lives on the line. Instead, they fought with their lives on the line. However, Night Sorrow's combat power was almost at the level of a half-step earthly supreme. Even if they focused on defense, it would be difficult for them to resist him. It didn't take long for Night Sorrow to kill another 2 paragons. Now, there were only 3 paragons left in front of Night Sorrow. The 3 of them exchanged glances. How could they possibly have the courage to continue fighting? The supreme martial artists who were fighting with the rest of the god world didn't notice Night Sorrow's situation at first. By the time they realized it, it was already too late. In the blink of an eye, Night Sorrow had killed 3 supreme martial artists. He killed every time he attacked. He was like a god of death. At this point, the supreme martial artists present were scared out of their wits. They all used their secret techniques to escape. Some of the supreme martial artists who had rushed over saw so many supreme martial artists running away, and they also ran away in fear. No one dared to continue fighting in the god world. Huh, Brother Yi, you are really brave. The power of the divine finger just now is amazing. The Myriad Sword sect laughed loudly. After Night Sorrow's power, the battle became like this. At the same time, he was quite interested in the divine finger. The divine finger is a good thing, but a man's wealth is his own ruin. You should wait until you become a supreme martial artist and can take charge in the supreme space before you learn it. Night Sorrow could naturally see through the Myriad Sword sect's thoughts and said with a smile, "Huh, okay, I will wait for a while more." The Myriad Sword sect also smiled. He was a little embarrassed that Night Sorrow had seen through his thoughts. At this time, Yuan Fengshua laughed and said, "Haha, it's okay. We are not in a hurry. If you're not strong enough to learn the divine finger, you'll be targeted wherever you go." That's right. But if you encounter a dangerous situation, you have to fight with your lives on the line. I will teach you the divine finger in advance. This divine finger is very special and can only be taught one by one. But the advantage is that as long as you teach it, you will be able to learn it directly. Night Sorrow explained and continued. Those weak supreme martial artists have escaped, but it doesn't mean that the others will not come. Let's go directly to the big and small grotto heavens. Okay, let's enter your space, grotto heaven again. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Wu Lingfei asked, Okay, my movement technique should be faster. After saying that, Night Sorrow kept everyone in the space grotto heaven and continued to rush to the big and small grotto heavens. Along the way, they were summoned 3 times, and each time, it was an earth-shattering battle. However, under Night Sorrow's continuous attacks, although the people of the heavenly realm were seriously exhausted and everyone, including Night Sorrow, was injured, no one died. Just like that, about 6 months later, they successfully arrived at the periphery of the big and small grotto heavens. Something's not right. There's obviously something going on inside. Just as they approached the periphery of the big and small grotto heavens, Night Sorrow felt that something was wrong and quickly stopped. Using the eye of the sea serpent, he saw that there were many formations set up around the big and small grotto heavens, and there were a few supreme martial artists hiding around. These supreme martial artists were all lower-level martial artists. Their strength was not very strong, but they were good at hiding. Obviously, they were hidden sentries. How can there be such a coincidence? We were just about to save people when we saw people coming to the big and small grotto heavens to look for opportunities. Master Wan Jian said unhappily. At this time, he was still in Night Sorrow's space grotto heaven, just like the others. There must be a rare treasure in the big and small grotto heavens that attracted some people here. I think this is our chance to become supreme martial artists. At this time, Night Sorrow recalled what Supreme Longevity said, and said slowly. Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3046. It's a good thing that a treasure has appeared in the big and small grotto heavens. We can't be absent. Thousand Sword Master said excitedly when he heard Night Sorrow's words. Even the grotto heaven, he could not suppress his desire to fight. He realized that after Night Sorrow's appearance, the strength of the people around him had increased by more than 1 level. It's a good thing. But looking at the situation in front of us, it might be a great danger. There must be many experts inside. Night Sorrow used the eye of the sea serpent to observe the formation in front of them for a long time. He was sure that the person who had set up the formation was at least a half-step earthly sovereign. Of course we're going in. Do we barge in or think of some other way? Thousand Sword Master asked. Xiao Tianxian and the rest did not say anything, but they were also paying attention. Obviously, they were looking forward to becoming earthly sovereigns. Let's kill the few hidden sentries in front of us first. Then let the restriction-breaking hammer try to break the formation without anyone noticing. Then we'll have enough time to hide in the dark. After communicating with the restriction-breaking hammer, Night Sorrow said, although the formation in front of them was very mysterious, the restriction-breaking hammer had the ability to break it. Then he added, of course, if we can capture these earthly sovereigns alive, that would be even better. We can ask who's in there, and when the people inside ask about it, we'll be able to respond easily. It won't be easy. After all, they are earthly sovereigns. It's already very difficult to kill them without anyone noticing, let alone capture them alive. Xiao Tianxian said with a frown when he heard the plan. There are a total of 6 of them, and they're hiding in different places. It's not easy to kill them without anyone noticing. How about this? I'll teach you the divine finger. When the time comes, we'll find the right time to kill them with a single blow. After thinking about it, Night Sorrow felt that this was the best choice for now. If it were not for the current situation, he would not have taught them the divine finger so early. So suddenly? Hearing Night Sorrow's words, everyone in the realm of God hesitated. After all, this was not going according to plan. From the looks of it, this is the safest way, Yishang added. Then, he led the people of the God realm away and found a safe place. Before imparting the God's finger to everyone, Night Sorrow frowned and said, actually, imparting the God's finger to everyone is not something difficult. However, we must ensure that the divine abilities of the divine realm are not learned by outsiders. Let's make an oath right now. He would never impart the secret technique to anyone. After all, things like divine abilities could only be passed down from one person to another. You can't learn it through soul-searching techniques. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Xiao Tianxian looked at the others and said. Then, he took the initiative to swear a deadly oath. This meant that even if he died, he would not impart this ability to anyone else. After Xiao Tianxian finished his oath, the others followed suit and made their oaths. After they finished their vows, Night Sorrow began to teach them the divine arts one by one. In less than 20 breaths of time, he finished teaching them. Time is of the essence. Everyone quickly comprehend it. However, there's no need to test it out to avoid alerting the enemy. After all, the distance is not far. After imparting the divine abilities, Night Sorrow allowed everyone to comprehend it for a while before keeping them back into the space cave. With the help of the concealment rune, Night Sorrow found a suitable location and divided everyone into 5 groups. He placed them near the 5 supreme beings while he faced one of them alone. Everyone get ready. I will count down from 1. Everyone, use your god's finger to kill the enemy. One of you will attack the Dantian, while the other one will attack the deity Ocean. After placing everyone down, Night Sorrow said, "Don't worry, we are all ready." Master Wan Jian said excitedly. The others were the same. After all, none of them had used their divine abilities before. All right, then I shall begin. 3, 2, 1, asterisk boom, 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 asterisk. When Yishang counted to 1, everyone attacked the supreme martial artists who were not far away from them from 6 different directions. With the help of the god's finger, the 6 supreme beings were all killed without making a sound. Just in case, Night Sorrow did not leave any of them alive. Restriction Breaking Hammer. It's up to you now. After keeping the teleportation stones and other items of the 6 supreme beings, Night Sorrow asked Little Seven to absorb them all. Then, he summoned the Restriction Breaking Hammer. This kind of formation may be very mysterious to you, but to us it's nothing at all. We can break it with a wave of our hand. After the male hammer was summoned, it immediately cooperated with the female hammer and successfully broke a hole in the formation. At this time, Wu Lingfei asked, "Are you sure this won't alert the people inside?" "Absolutely not, unless there is a heavenly supreme inside." The female hammer, who recognized Wu Lingfei as its master, replied, "That's good. Let's go in." After getting a positive answer, Wu Lingfei looked at everyone and said, "No hurry. We can set up some more formations on top of this formation. This way, we can know in advance if anyone comes." Yishang said as he casually set up some array formations nearby. Among them, there was an illusion formation, a trap formation, and a concealment formation. In the concealment formation, there were a few image stones. Shall we go in together, or enter your space, Grotto Heaven again? When everyone was about to enter the Grotto Heavens, Xiao Tianxian looked at Night Sorrow again. "It will be safer for everyone to hide in my space, Grotto Heaven. However, I think that since we are representing the heavenly realm, we should go in together. After all, the heavenly realm does not belong to me alone." Night Sorrow smiled and said to everyone, after teaching them the god's finger, he had a deeper level of confidence in everyone's strength. "All right, being taken care of by you all the time has lowered our vigilance, and we have become dependent on you. This is not good," Jin Xin said with a smile as he walked into the Grotto Heavens. However, after walking for a short distance, he frowned and said, "What a strong smell of blood. From the position of the cave, there should have been a battle. Indeed, everyone be careful." Using the sea serpent's eye, Night Sorrow looked into the distance and found that there were many torn corpses in the dark cave. The corpses of these cultivators were all in a horrible state. "Night Sorrow, can you see anything?" As everyone walked into the cave, the smell of blood became stronger and stronger. Murongji pointed the way and asked, "This cave is not simple. If I'm not wrong, this is a land of death. There's a terrifying existence here." Before Night Sorrow could say anything, Xiongji spoke first. The seal-breaking bronze hammers had an extraordinary understanding of space. With a simple look, they were sure that there was no way out. There was no way out. Moreover, there were torn corpses all around. This was different from what they had imagined before they came in. Genius memorized the address in 1 second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3047. Seal-breaking hammer. Work together and try to break the seal. Everyone else, be on guard. After the seal-breaking hammer made its judgment, Night Sorrow immediately reminded everyone to be on guard. The smell of blood here was too strong. Obviously, the corpses nearby had been killed not long ago. It was very likely that there was a horrifying existence in this sealed cave. However, even when Night Sorrow used the sea serpent's eye to observe, he did not find anything. When Night Sorrow did not find anything, Jingyun shouted, "Not good. I feel that something is spying on us." Jingyun is the weakest. The thing hiding in the dark might want to attack her. Everyone, get ready to attack. Thinking of the miserable corpses around him, Night Sorrow's heart clenched as he stood beside Jingyun. Moreover, the others in the realm of the gods also unconsciously moved closer. In an instant, the temperature in the dark cave dropped a lot. Even though everyone was a dominator, they could still feel the coldness in their bones. There's a murderous aura. It's very strong. In the tense atmosphere, Night Sorrow suddenly transmitted his voice to everyone. This time, although the sea serpent's eye did not see anything, he could already feel the terrifying murderous aura. It's coming. I can feel it. It's coming. As soon as Night Sorrow finished speaking, Jingyun shouted. Then, she condensed her divine origin energy and used the divine finger in a direction. As her divine finger lit up the distance, everyone saw a headless armored corpse slowly crawling out of the soil. As for Xiangyu's attack, it might have been due to panic, but it did not hit its target. This armored corpse should have the strength of an earthly sovereign when it was alive. Now, it should be a half-step earthly sovereign. However, it is stronger than an ordinary half-step earthly sovereign. After all, it had comprehended the rules of an earthly sovereign when it was alive. Everyone, be careful. Little Seven glanced at the armored corpse in front of them and immediately reminded everyone. If it's alone, there's nothing to be afraid of. However, if the number keeps increasing, it will be difficult to deal with. After using the sea serpent's eye to observe the headless armored corpse, Night Sorrow said coldly. The armored corpse's aura was strong and full of murderous aura. However, the giant axe in its hand was already blunt. Who cares how many there are? Let's fight. The 10,000 Swords sect roared and took the lead to charge forward. In everyone's opinion, Jingyun's cultivation time was too short after all, so she was still a little weak. Roar! Just as Master 10,000 Swords swung his sword at the armored zombie. Out of nowhere, the headless armored zombie let out a roar. Then he swung his axe fiercely at the 10,000 Swords sect. The precept contained within this swing were clearly stronger than the Myriad Swords sect's attack. With a boom, the master of the 10,000 Swords was sent flying. If it wasn't for his sword's quality, it would have been broken. This thing is quite capable. Everyone be careful. After being sent flying by a single blow, Master Wan Jian felt that his breathing was a little labored, so he immediately reminded everyone. Just as he spoke, the armored zombie charged at him ferociously. This time, the armored zombie didn't swing the giant axe in his hand. Instead, he stretched out his hands in an attempt to tear the Myriad Swords sect to shreds. Seeing this scene, Night Sorrow and the others could no longer stand still. Godly Spear. After condensing his elemental energy, Yishan immediately shot out the Godly Spear. This Godly Spear, with the help of Godly Shadow, was extremely fast and wasn't inferior to the Godly Finger. As soon as he finished speaking, Night Sorrow's attack had already landed on the armored zombie's body. The clanging sound of metal colliding rang out in the enclosed space. The armored zombie which was about to tear the master of the 10,000 Swords sect to shreds, was blasted a few hundred feet away. A few hundred feet wasn't a short distance, but for a cultivator at Knight Sorrow's level, it wasn't far at all. When he bombarded the armored zombie's body, he felt like he was hitting a solid piece of iron. This armored zombie's body is very strong. Everyone be careful. After helping the master of the 10,000 Swords sect up, Knight Sorrow reminded everyone. The attack just now made him realize that the armored zombie's body was obviously stronger than an ordinary half-step earthly sovereign. Thank you. I was a little careless just now. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I would have been torn to shreds. After the master of the 10,000 Swords sect got up, he said with lingering fear. During the exchange just now, cold sweat flowed down his back. If it weren't for Knight Sorrow's timely intervention, his body would have been torn to shreds in a moment of carelessness. The armored zombie's strength was obviously stronger than what the master of the 10,000 Swords sect had imagined. Let's not talk about this for now. Let's continue to fight. Although the armored zombie is strong, it shouldn't be invulnerable. After helping the master of the 10,000 Swords sect up, Knight Sorrow once again condensed his divine origin energy and attacked the armored zombie with the godly finger. When Knight Sorrow attacked, the rest of the people in the realm of the gods also attacked with the godly finger. Although the armored zombie's body was strong, its speed wasn't fast. Although it knew how to dodge, it didn't manage to avoid these attacks. However, only Knight Sorrow's attack managed to penetrate its armor. The others' attacks didn't have much effect. This thing's defense is too terrifying. Jin Xian's brows furrowed in shock when he saw that the armored zombie hadn't suffered much damage despite being bombarded by a barrage of attacks. After all, the godly finger's attack power was very sharp. It's okay. Being able to penetrate its defense proves that it isn't invulnerable. Little 7, if it loses its ability to resist, can you swallow it? This thing was an earthly sovereign when it was alive. If you swallow it, you should be able to gain a lot of benefits, right? Knight Sorrow asked Little Tower as he cooperated with the others to attack the armored zombie. Little 7 replied with certainty, "In this situation, I definitely can't. But if it loses its ability to resist, then we will definitely gain a lot. In addition to the previous accumulation, I can help one of you become an earthly sovereign in a short period of time." Good. Very good. Knight Sorrow was shocked when he heard Little 7's reply. Whether it was him or the others, their strength would increase greatly when they became earthly sovereigns. This was definitely a great thing for the Grotto Heavens. However, the battle in front of them was obviously more difficult than they had imagined. Although everyone attacked together, they quickly suppressed the armored zombie. Just as the armored zombie was about to lose its ability to fight, it suddenly let out an earth-shattering roar. After the roar, dozens of specters with the strength of earthly sovereigns immediately appeared in the cave. Every single one of these soul-like spirits was extremely ferocious. Although they were specters, they still had the ability to fight. After they appeared, they cooperated with the armored zombie to launch a terrifying soul attack on the people in the realm of the gods. The strength of the soul attack made Knight Sorrow feel that it was a little difficult to deal with. Chapter 3048. Such a terrifying divine soul attack is hard to deal with. What should we do? Seeing so many divine souls unleashing such a powerful divine soul attack, Murong Jinlu anxiously shouted. His shouts filled the cave. Murong Jinlu's shouts had the intention of disrupting the morale of the army. Xiao Tianxian shouted in dissatisfaction. "What are you shouting for? This is a sealed space. We are fighting with our backs against the wall. There is no way out. If you want to live, fight with your life." But Murong Jinlu wanted to say something, but he was quickly entangled by two divine souls. Under their attacks, Murong Jinlu quickly lost the ability to resist. Knight Sorrow. Murong Jinlu seems to be unable to resist. Knight Sorrow, who was in the middle of the battle, had consumed a lot of his divine soul. He had no time to look around, so he did not notice the problem with Murong Jinlu. It was little Seven who reminded him. Bastard! Turning around to look at Murong Jinlu, Knight Soro's eyes immediately changed. At this moment, he had been completely defeated, and his divine soul was being torn apart. Knight Soro did not hesitate at all. He directly used Soft Dragon Roar to push back the two divine souls that were fighting Murong Jinlu. Then, he kept them in his space grotto heaven. He asked, "Jinlu, how are you? Luckily you acted in time, or else I would have died." Murong Jinlu's face revealed a bitter smile. After surviving a disaster, his mood was a bit uneasy. But at this moment, he still reminded, "Don't worry about me. There are still others. These damn things are too hard to deal with. Don't worry. I will think of a way." Knight Soro transmitted his voice to Murong Jinlu, then continued to fight with the divine souls. Although everyone tried their best to resist, they were still at a disadvantage. The headless armored corpse, which had been injured earlier, was also gradually recovering. When it completely returned to the battlefield, everyone in the heavenly realm was completely suppressed. "This won't do. If this goes on, we will all die here. Everyone, take out whatever secret treasures you have. Even if we self-destruct, it is better than being killed ourselves." Thousand Swords Master shouted. "We know that too, but what he could take out, he had taken out almost all of them. After all, even the Restriction Breaker Hammer and Little Seven have joined the battle." Jin Xian replied helplessly. The current situation was simply too passive. A trace of despair gradually rose in everyone's hearts. Right at this critical moment, Knight Soro suddenly shouted, "Primal Chaos! Come out quickly! Suck all these souls into your Primal Chaos space. We'll deal with them in the Primal Chaos space." "Good. Watch me." When the chaotic heavenly crystal beast received Knight Soro's order, it immediately came out of the spatial paradise. He had just achieved the upper level 9 Heaven Supreme realm not long ago. His aura was extremely strong. After he appeared, he completely exploded. Together with Knight Soro, they fought against the headless armored corpse and sucked everyone into the chaotic space. Then he shouted, "Knight Soro, I'll hold off this armored zombie. You go in and deal with those supreme being spirits." "Good. You just have to hold it back," Knight Soro said, and also entered the Primal Chaos space. In the Primal Chaos space, he could be considered half a master, and he was completely familiar with it. It was completely different when he fought against those supreme being spirits. After the supreme being spirits were suppressed, Knight Soro completely exploded and quickly finished off a few of them. At this time, he shouted, "Everyone, now is the best opportunity. If we delay any longer, the Primal Chaos space will not be able to suppress them." Okay, the others made a long story short and immediately attacked. With everyone's cooperation, these originally extremely terrifying supreme being spirits were destroyed one by one. The chaotic heavenly crystal beast has really done a meritorious deed this time. Without it, we might have all died this time. After finishing off these supreme being spirits, Xiao Tianxian said with lingering fear. Boom! Right at this moment, they who were within the chaotic space immediately sensed a strand of extremely powerful collision force. Not good. The primal chaos space can't resist the armored zombie. Let's go help immediately. Knight Soro, who had also relaxed a little, realized this problem and immediately shouted, "Okay, let's kill that headless armored zombie together." Myriad Sword Sect also said. Then everyone in the heavenly realm territory came out of the primal chaos space. As soon as they returned to the cave, they saw the chaotic heavenly crystal beast's huge body that had been knocked down. Although its body was incomparably huge, its combat strength was much weaker than the armored zombies. If it wasn't for Knight Soro immediately striking the armored zombie with the divine finger as soon as he appeared, the armored zombie would have been killed. Primal Chaos. You've done well this time. Jing Yun, give all the earthly supreme rules and essence to the primal chaos. The chaotic heavenly crystal beast was seriously injured. So Knight Sorrow immediately asked Jingyun to take out the champion's reward that had not been absorbed and give it to the chaotic heavenly crystal beast. I'm fine, I just need to rest for a while. After the chaotic heavenly crystal beast collected the resources, it returned to Knight Sorrow's grotto heaven to recover. At this time, it had already contacted Knight Sorrow's battle pet contract and was considered friends. As for Yi Shang and the others, they no longer called him it. Okay, you rest in peace. I will avenge you for being injured. Knight Sorrow transmitted his voice and once again held the golden heavenly halberd in his hand. The armored zombie's body was very strong, and its combat strength was astonishing. Among the people present, only he could fight against it. Then, Knight Sorrow restrained the armored zombie while the others bombarded it from a distance. After fighting for about 6 hours, they finally defeated the armored zombie completely. Little Seven quickly sucked it into the tower. When the armored zombie lost its combat strength, Knight Sorrow immediately reminded Little Seven, "Don't worry, I've long been ready." Hearing this, Little Seven instantly sucked the armored zombie into the tower. Although it was only on the 7th level of the Eternal Divine Tower, its functions were still very powerful. After sucking the armored zombie in, it quickly converted it into rules and energy. After doing all this, Little Seven said, "At present, except for Knight Sorrow, any one of you can quickly advance to the Supreme Stage if you enter the tower to cultivate. Who will go first? How long will it take to advance to the Supreme Stage?" After Little Seven finished speaking, Knight Sorrow asked. If he wanted to advance to the Supreme Stage, he needed more rules and essence than the others. Little Seven in front of him couldn't help him much. It depends on comprehension. If it's not bad, a few years will be enough. Little Seven thought for a moment and replied. Then, everyone in the Heavenly Realm territory immediately discussed who should go first. Originally, everyone recommended the Myriad Sword sect because he was more brave and would be the first to face any danger. If he could advance to the Supreme Stage, it would be a very good improvement for the entire team. However, Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. Human Mobile Version Reading Website. Chapter 3049. However, after being recommended by everyone, Myriad Sword Master felt that it was better to let Jing Yun, who was an upper-level dominator, directly advance to the Supreme level. It was obviously more suitable for an upper-level dominator to advance than a half-step Supreme. When everyone heard this, they felt that it made sense, so they did not continue to argue. They let Jing Yun, who was too embarrassed, enter the Eternal Divine Tower to cultivate. Finally, with Knight Sorrow's nod, Jing Yun finally went in and began to cultivate. Knight Sorrow led the others to search for the exit of the cave in front of them. However, after looking around, they found that there was no exit at all. At this moment, Myriad Sword Master asked doubtfully, "If there is no exit or entrance, how did the armored zombie leave after killing the Supreme level? After all, when we first entered here, there were no creatures in the cave." "That makes sense. Let's look carefully," Knight Sorrow said, and then transmitted his voice to the restriction-breaking hammer. "You guys also study and see if there are any restrictions around. We've been looking, but we haven't found any clues." The hammer replied immediately. They really couldn't find any way out. Little Seven had no way out either. For a time, everyone was trapped in the cave. Just like that, he had been trapped for 10 years. In these 10 years, Knight Sorrow and the others tried all kinds of methods, but they couldn't leave. Obviously, their attacks couldn't threaten the cave in front of them. After 10 years of being trapped, Myriad Sword Master sat helplessly on the ground and said sadly, "We won't be trapped here forever, right? There's such a possibility. If there's really no other way, we can only cultivate hard, try to break through to the Supreme level, and then try to attack the surrounding walls." Knight Sorrow said helplessly. After being trapped for so many years, he had no way out. Divine Finger was the most powerful attack in the Eternal Supreme world, but it couldn't break through the walls of the cave, because the walls of the cave could grow by themselves. After being blasted open, they would heal by themselves in the blink of an eye. Sigh. Without relying on resources, it's easier said than done to advance to the supreme level. Among us, I'm afraid only Jingyun can advance to the supreme level. Myriad Sword Master said helplessly. It's fine. If we go out late, we'll miss the opportunity at most. It's nothing. At this moment, Xiao Tianxian comforted her. He, on the other hand, had been relatively calm and had been cultivating peacefully. That's nothing. Can you imagine the purpose of our trip? It was to rescue the two Vice City Lords. The strength of the two City Lords should be slightly stronger than Brother Yi. Aren't you also trapped in the formation and unable to come out? Master Wan Jian said speechlessly. After hearing what he said, everyone's faces changed. That's right. The two Vice City Lords were trapped in the same grotto heavens. Their situation was very likely the same as theirs. Don't worry, we will definitely be able to get out. At this moment, Night Sorrow comforted him with certainty. He had the Supreme Longevity Summoning Stone in his hands. He could summon the Supreme Longevity from any corner of the Eternal Supreme World. With his ability, he would definitely have a way to leave. What was that sound? Why is there thunder in the cave? After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Yuan Fengxue suddenly asked with a puzzled expression. What thunder? Hearing this, Master Wan Jian frowned. But soon, he also heard the sound of thunder. At this moment, Little Seven said, It's Jing Yun facing the supreme tribulation in the eternal divine tower. If nothing unexpected happens, she will soon become a supreme. Really? That's great. Hearing that Jing Yun was about to become a supreme, everyone's eyes lit up. Night Sorrow and Wu Lingfei were a little worried that Jing Yun would not be able to withstand the supreme tribulation. However, the facts proved that their worries were completely unnecessary. Half a month later, a delicate shout suddenly came from the Eternal Divine Tower. Then, Jing Yun's graceful figure suddenly flew out of the Eternal Divine Tower. At this moment, runes were flowing on her body, making her look like a floating immortal. And her aura was very stable. She did not give off a feeling of emptiness because her strength had increased too quickly. Congratulations to Jing Yun for becoming a supreme. You are one step ahead of all of us. After confirming that Jing Yun had successfully become a supreme, Master Wan Jian was the first to congratulate her. Night Sorrow's face had a trace of a smile. He was sincerely happy for her. Then, everyone else also congratulated her. After everyone finished, Jing Yun said softly, Actually, when I entered the Supreme Divine Tower to cultivate this time, not only did my strength advance to the level of a lower supreme, I also obtained a lot of useful things. Oh, what things? Wu Lingfei was puzzled. The things I obtained were the armored zombies' memories. It turns out that in the big and small grotto heavens, there are 3 big grotto heavens and 3,000 small grotto heavens. What place is here? It is one of the small grotto heavens. At this point, Jingyan paused for a moment and said, And in the big and small grotto heavens, there are cave masters. The cave masters in the 3 big grotto heavens are all earthly sovereigns. However, their strength is suppressed by the supreme space, so they can't completely unleash the strength of an earthly sovereign. As for the 3,000 small grotto heavens, the cave master's strength is about the same as the armored zombies. Then how do we get out? There should be such things in the armored zombies' memories, right? After Jingyan finished speaking, Night Sorrow asked. Of course there is. Jingyan smiled and said, What I'm talking about is the original cave master. Actually, anyone who defeats the original cave master can become the new cave master and have the authority to enter and exit the grotto heavens. In this small grotto heavens, the cave master was defeated by everyone. However, its laws and essence have all been absorbed by me. Therefore, I became the new cave master of this small grotto heavens. It is very easy to get out. Is that so? That's great. After Jingyan finished speaking, Master Wan Jian immediately laughed. After being trapped for so many years, now that they could finally get out, he was not the only one who was relieved. Everyone else also relaxed. Getting out is a very simple thing. But the problem is that the purpose of our trip is to rescue the two deputy city lords. There are more than 3,000 grotto heavens. How are we going to find them? At this time, Jingyun said hesitantly, other than the cave master, is there any other way to break into the grotto heavens? Night Sorrow continued to ask. He felt that having many grotto heavens was not a problem. But the fatal thing was that if they barged in recklessly, it was very likely that they would be trapped in one of the grotto heavens. If the cave master of the grotto heavens did not choose to fight to the death like the armored zombie, but chose to escape directly, then they would be trapped in the grotto heavens forever. That would be very tragic. There's a way, such as an earthly supreme level attack, or a heavenly supreme level attack, Jingyun said helplessly. So there is no way to break into those grotto heavens? Hearing this, everyone in the heavenly realm territory was a little disappointed. However, at this time, Night Sorrow suddenly said, the two city lords should be able to be saved. Chapter 3050. Oh, how are we going to save them? We are not earthly sovereigns or heavenly sovereigns. It is definitely not a wise choice to go to other grotto heavens. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Xiao Tianxian asked doubtfully, we do not have the attack power of an earthly sovereign or heavenly sovereign now. But as long as I advance to sovereign, the divine finger should not be inferior to an ordinary earthly sovereign attack. At that time, we can travel between different grotto heavens. Yishan analyzed for a moment before he continued. Therefore, we should go and fight for the fortuitous encounters. As long as we get the opportunity, everything will be fine. That makes sense. Others in the sovereign realm cannot attack at the level of an earthly sovereign. But you're different. You can fight across realms. Naturally, you can also attack at the level of an earthly sovereign. Hearing this, Xiao Tianxuan's eyes lit up. Everyone else's eyes were also filled with boundless light. At this time, Night Sorrow looked at Jingyun and asked, Jingyun, you have some memories of the armored zombie. Is there any record of the opportunity in it? Currently, we are in the dark and do not know anything. There are some. Jingyun organized her words and said faintly, in the armored zombie's memory, a great opportunity will appear in the sky of the grotto heavens every million years. The earthly sovereign's rules, in essence, will fall from the sky. But every time, the competition is very fierce. Many cave masters will fall in the competition. This is also the reason why the armored zombie is crazily accumulating divine souls. In addition, many sovereigns from the eternal sovereign realm will appear. Will the cave masters of the three grotto heavens appear? After Jingyun finished speaking, Night Sorrow asked, if there were no accidents, the competition for the opportunity would definitely be a big scene. In a chaotic battle, if there were three earthly sovereigns, it would be too dangerous. Although their strength would be suppressed, ordinary sovereigns would not be able to fight against them. There will also be opportunities in the sky of the three grotto heavens. The opportunities in the three grotto heavens will be much stronger than those in the 3,000 grotto heavens. Generally speaking, the three cave masters only need to guard the opportunities in the three grotto heavens. He wouldn't abandon the watermelon to pick up the sesame. However, if someone wants to steal the fortune from the three grotto heavens, they will definitely be attacked crazily. Jingyun organized her thoughts and explained to everyone. Everyone in the divine world was filled with fighting spirit. Without a doubt, the upcoming opportunity would definitely be a crazy fight for it. In the midst of fortuitous encounters, there were bound to be cruel killings. However, if one could emerge from the cruel slaughter and snatch a large number of opportunities, one would be able to become a new force. These people from the God world would also successfully advance to the autarch level. That way, he would be able to catch up with the experts of the older generation and be able to hold his own, especially Night Sorrow. If he could successfully advance, he would definitely reach the heavens in a single bound. He was about to break away from the sovereign realm and reach the level of the Earth Sovereign. After we get the opportunity, We will give it to Night Sorrow first and strive to let him break through to the Supreme Being level first. This is a big deal. Does anyone have any objections? After Jing Yun finished speaking, Xiao Tianxian pondered for a moment before speaking. What's there to disagree about? Brother Yi advancing to the Supreme Being level is the key to saving the two deputy city lords. Of course, we agree. Wang Jianzong said indifferently and continued. But I say, Brother Xiao, we are all going through life and death together. Things like resources, don't talk about it in the future. It's unnecessary and will affect our relationship. That's right. Between us, there's no distinction between us. Jin Xian also said with a smile. Xiao Tianxian also laughed at their words. Yes, it's my fault. I apologize to everyone. At this moment, Yuan Fengshu asked curiously, Oh right, Jing Yun, when will the opportunity that you mention arrive? According to the armored zombie's memory, it should be around 30 years. After Jing Yun said this, she pondered for a moment and continued. Generally speaking, whenever this period approaches, there will be many people entering the big and small grotto heavens. If there are no accidents, there will definitely be people entering the grotto heavens we are in. There will be a lot of battles. It's better if people come. Anyway, our divine world territory has no friends in the eternal supreme world. When the time comes, we will kill whoever comes. Wang Jianzong said with hostility. All these years, under the suppression of the top-ranked territories, the territories in the eternal supreme world had indeed stood on the opposite side of the divine world territory. The reason why the divine world territory could survive until now was basically because of the prestige of the supreme longevity. If we kill a few more, maybe we can accumulate enough resources to let one of you advance to the sovereign level. However, killing sovereigns can only obtain the sovereign level rules in essence. Night Sorrow needs the sovereign level rules in essence. He has no use for these. After Wang Jianzong finished speaking, Little Seven said eagerly, This is indeed a good thing. You guys are so talented that you don't need to consider absorbing the ordinary sovereign level rules in essence. But I need them. Next time let me advance. Nie Zhonglin, who had not spoken for a long time, said with a smile. In the past, Jin Xian was the weakest in this team. But now, the weakest one was Nie Zhonglin. Nie Zhonglin was a little unwilling to accept the current situation. He thought that although the earlier one advanced, the weaker the accumulation, it was still better than being last forever. Good. Since Zhonglin thinks so, we will naturally support you. Nie Zhonglin finally spoke, and Night Sorrow immediately supported him. After that, the people of the Divine World Territory returned to the small grotto heaven controlled by Jing Yun, and waited patiently for the arrival of the other territory's cultivators. When they entered the grotto heaven, they randomly appeared in the small grotto heaven in front of them, and it should be the same for the others. Therefore, they were not worried that a large number of sovereigns would enter at once. However, after waiting in the grotto heaven for 2 years, not a single sovereign appeared. Wang Jianzong could not sit still anymore, and asked Night Sorrow, Brother Yi, is the concealment array that you set up still there? Use the image stone to observe what happened at the entrance of the grotto heaven. Is that okay? Sure. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it. Night Sorrow replied. Speaking of which, it had been a few years since they entered the grotto heaven, and he was not sure if the image stone was still there. That's right. It's still there, and it's in perfect condition. Night Sorrow confirmed that the image stone in the concealment array was in perfect condition. Immediately, an image was constructed in the grotto heaven. This image was naturally from the image stone, and it recorded the situation at the entrance of the grotto heaven. Very good. With these images, we can see all the possible opponents in advance. After the image appeared, Wang Jianzong said excitedly, Chapter 3051. It's just a part of the eternal supreme world. The enemies in the grotto heaven should all be very strong. What we need to pay attention to the most is still them. After saying this, Yishan continued, However, I don't think so. In our small grotto heaven, The enemies we may encounter will be clear at a glance. This is very advantageous for the battle. How about this? When we have nothing to do, we will cultivate here. One of us will pay attention to the image. Good. Then you all cultivate. I will pay attention to the image. Nie Zhonglin volunteered. If he did nothing and directly entered the Eternal Divine Tower to cultivate, he would really be embarrassed. After Nie Zhonglin began to pay attention to the image sent by the image stone, the rest of the people in the God World territory entered the state of cultivation one by one. In terms of realm, they have all reached the peak of the supreme level. It is impossible to break through in a short period of time. Therefore, under the guidance of Night Sorrow, they began to use the divine finger to create their own absolute art. After explaining the general theory, Night Sorrow also began to study the divine finger and mysterious sky secret shadow. He had also studied these two divine abilities before, but his study was not very detailed. The fusion of the absolute art is also not considered the top, and in the next fight for the opportunity, there will probably be thousands of Supremes. It will definitely be a big scene, but it will also contain endless danger. If you are not careful, you will be sneak attacked. Therefore, Night Sorrow wants to fuse an even more powerful absolute art in the next 30 years or so. This time, he wants to add something of his own into the absolute art. However, after studying for more than 2 years, he had just made some progress. Nie Zhonglin reminded. Everyone, pay attention. Someone is preparing to enter the large and small grotto heaven. Looking at their clothes, they should be people from the Moon Shadow territory. There are 12 Supremes in their group. 3 of them are half-step Earth Supremes. Their strength is not to be underestimated. Everyone, get ready for battle. If they descend here, everyone will use their divine abilities at the first moment. Try to give them a heavy blow at the first moment. After waking up from a state of enlightenment, Night Sorrow immediately instructed. Don't worry, we won't be polite at all. Thousand Sword Sect and Murong, Zhenlu rubbed their fists and said, if it had been a few hundred years ago, any one of the 12 people from the Moon Shadow Estate would have been able to kill these people from the divine world. But now, the 11 of them, including Night Sorrow, had completely grown up. He's in. Everyone, prepare to attack. Seeing that the people of the Moon Shadow Estate had entered their respective grotto heavens, Nie Zhonglin reminded them. At the same time, he was already preparing the God's Finger. They were prepared to launch an unexpected attack the moment the people from the Moon Shadow Estate appeared. In fact, Nie Zhonglin wasn't the only one. Night Sorrow and Xiao Tianxian were the same. They had also prepared the God's Finger and were waiting for the people of the Moon Shadow Estate to descend into the small grotto heaven before them. However, things did not go as planned. In the end, the people of the Moon Shadow Estate did not appear. After calming himself down, Night Sorrow asked in confusion, Jing Yun, if everyone entered one of the grotto heavens, they would be teleported to one of the smaller grotto heavens. How could outsiders compete for the opportunities above the 3,000 paradises? After all, if the cave master doesn't let them go, they won't be able to leave. After the opportunity opens, I'll try to find a way out. Those who enter the grotto heavens will be directly teleported to the sky above the 3,000 grotto heavens. There is no possibility of being trapped by the grotto masters. Jingyan said. He said, then why did the people of the Moon Shadow Estate come more than 20 years in advance? After all, with the strength of the Moon Shadow Estate, they should be very clear about this kind of opportunity. Night Sorrow speculated doubtfully. Who knows? The Moon Shadow Estate might have already taken control of some of the small grotto heavens. They might have a cave master in their group, and they might be able to teleport directly into the small grotto heavens. Jing Yun analyzed. Yes, what you said is very reasonable. But if that's the case, then the only people who can enter our little grotto heaven are hotheads like us. Night Sorrow said with a smile. He thought to himself, there really aren't many people like them, who are fearless and directly charge in. What happened later proved this point. In the following 10 years or so, some of the cultivators who appeared should be similar to those from the Moon Shadow Estate. Even though they had their own grotto heavens, None of them had entered this small grotto heaven. And Night Sorrow, in these 10 years, had also completely integrated a new unique skill. Mysterious Immortal Golden Slash. This move had integrated the speed of the mysterious sky's secret shadow, the attack power similar to the divine finger, and the attribute attack of the golden heavenly halberd. It was very powerful. As for Shao Tianxian, the Myriad Sword sect, and the others, they had also gained something. Especially Wu Lingfei, who used her bloodline talent to integrate a very powerful flame attack. Phoenix burns the 9 heavens. After she struck out this attack, every wisp of flame was like the divine finger, with great destructive power. After she developed it, Jing Yun, who also had the Phoenix bloodline, simply learned this move from her. It didn't take long for her to master it. Because Jing Yun was a supreme being, her execution of this move was stronger than Wu Lingfei's. Her current attack had completely left Shao Tianxian, the Myriad Sword sect, and the others in the dust. Among the crowd, she was second only to Night Sorrow. Although Night Sorrow hadn't advanced to the Supreme Being realm, his strongest attack could already challenge a half-step earthly Supreme Being. It wasn't something that Jing Yun could compare to. Under Wu Lingfei and Jing Yun's guidance, everyone began to exchange ideas and gain a lot. Out of confidentiality, Night Sorrow didn't tell anyone about the mysterious sky's secret shadow, afraid that the Supreme Longevity's possession of Feng Wuji would be exposed. Someone's here. Someone's finally here. It's Supreme Being Qing He. Qingyan Territory's Supreme Being Qing He. In the battle for Providence, he was one of the 108 Supreme Beings. While everyone was exchanging ideas, Nie Zhonglin, who had been waiting for someone to come, spoke again excitedly. However, after he finished speaking, he said in surprise, "Oh no, Qingyan Territory has sent 16 Supreme Beings at once. 3 of them are half-step earthly Supreme Beings. With their strength, they're not to be trifled with. If they enter the small grotto heaven we're in, we might not be their match. What's there to be afraid of? If we're not their match, let Jing Yun teleport us out." Hearing Nie Zhonglin's words, the Myriad Sword sect said disdainfully, "Yes, that makes sense. We're in an invincible position." Nie Zhonglin smiled and formed the divine finger again at the same time. The others in the heavenly realm were also on guard. However, this time, they were no longer channeling the divine finger. They were all preparing for a new ultimate technique. And this time, the people of Qingyan Territory were really randomly teleported to the small grotto heaven they were in. Clan M. Chapter 3052. Attack. After the people of the Green Cloud Territory teleported in, Night Sorrow immediately roared. He knew very well that the 108 Supremes who could participate in the battle for Providence were all half-step earthly Supremes and had a certain status in their territories. None of them were easy to deal with. Therefore, in terms of overall strength, the other party was definitely stronger than them. The people of the Celestial Realm had to act quickly and deal a heavy blow to the other party before they landed on the ground. And that was indeed the case in reality. Although Supremacy Qing He and the others of the Green Cloud Territory had been vigilant, they did not expect to encounter all kinds of attacks as soon as they landed. Boom, boom, boom. After Night Sorrow gave the order, the attacks of the people of the Celestial Realm were all focused on the people of the Green Cloud Territory. That kind of concentrated public attack made these Supreme Beings feel like they were in a terrible fix. For a time, the people of the Green Cloud Territory were bombarded into a sorry state. Even Supremacy Qing He, who was leading the team, was unable to stand steadily. Continue to attack, use secret treasures and divine artifacts. After the people of the Green Cloud Territory lost their footing, Night Sorrow continued to remind them. Kill. Then, the people of the Celestial Realm roared loudly. Just as the people of the Green Cloud Territory were about to start preparing, they all raised their strength to the maximum and fought with thousands of people. Although the small grotto heaven in front of them was not big, it was more than enough to accommodate dozens of people fighting. Although the people of the Celestial Realm who had the upper hand, did not have the advantage in terms of numbers and strength. They obviously caught the other party off guard in the battle. Many of the cultivators of the Green Cloud territory fell into a passive state before they could use many of their methods. For example, Supremacy Ching He of the Green Cloud territory, who was a half-step earthly supremacy, was suppressed by Night Sorrow's crazy attacks. Your Night Sorrow of the Celestial Realm? Good, very good. The younger generation is really to be feared. After all, Chingha had participated in the battle for Providence and was very familiar with Night Sorrow. He immediately recognized Night Sorrow's identity. However, he didn't underestimate Yishang just because he was a half-step supreme being. Night Sorrow had led an extremely weak Celestial Realm territory to win the battle for Providence by himself. This showed that he was a person of great providence. Supremacy Ching, he knew that in terms of luck, he was definitely not as good as Night Sorrow's. The situation in front of him also proved this point. The only thing he could rely on was his powerful strength. Different half-step earthly supremes had different levels of strength. As a Supremacy Ching, he was a supremacy of the Celestial Realm. He was very confident in his strength supremacy of the Celestial Realm. After Supremacy Ching, he spoke. Night Sorrow said coldly, "When it comes to fighting, he's an opponent. There's nothing of a younger generation. All these years, you people have been humiliating the God world in every possible way. Now is the time to settle the karma." Ha 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 ha. If you're talking about the Celestial Realms territory, our Chingha group was really involved in it. And I've personally killed a female cultivator named Supremacy Rui and even severely injured a male cultivator named Supremacy of the Horn Clan. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Supremacy Ching he sneered and roared, "The next one to be killed is you. Night Sorrow, don't think that you can behave atrociously in the supreme space just because you have amazing providence. You're still too inexperienced." At the same time, Supremacy Ching, he summoned his halberd and smashed it toward Night Sorrow. The target that Night Sorrow had chosen to attack was Supremacy Ching He. One of his arms was injured, and his primordial energy was constantly leaking out. However, the battle had already begun, so Supremacy Ching, he did not have the time to pay attention to it. His slash unleashed an endless amount of golden light that slashed horizontally at Yishang. This seemed to be the simplest slash, but Night Sorrow suddenly felt like his body was bound, and he could only take the attack head-on. So be it. Who's afraid? Mystic Immortal Golden Slash. Today, I'll take revenge for the Horn Clan's supremacy. Faced with Supremacy Ching He's powerful attack, Night Sorrow roared and used the Immortal Golden Slash that he had just comprehended. He was not going to hold back at all against Supremacy Ching He, who had severely injured the Horn Clan's supremacy. Boom! When the two attacks collided, a shocking energy fluctuation immediately erupted. The loud sound of the collision caused some of the surrounding cultivators to be shaken to the point that they were unable to stabilize their minds. Quite a number of people were looking in their direction. When they saw this, the people of the Qingyan territory were dumbfounded. They suddenly realized that Supremacy Ching He's halberd had been broken by Night Sorrow's spear. How is this possible? My immortal slaying war halberd. You deserve to die. The moment the immortal slaying war halberd in his hand was broken, Supremacy Ching, he was stunned for a moment in disbelief before he flew into a rage. The immortal slaying war halberd had fought with him for several cycles, so they had a very deep relationship. But he did not expect it to be broken by Night Sorrow today. Even the artifact spirit inside had been destroyed by this attack. How could he not be furious? If you want to kill me, you need strength, not words. You should be a veteran supremacy, yet you don't even understand this. Night Sorrow looked at him coldly. While they were talking, he used his divine soul power to scan the others in the battle. The people of the Qingyun territory, who were now unstable, did not show their combat strength at all. Although the many cultivators of the heavenly realm could not suppress the other party, they were evenly matched for the time being. Jing Yin was fighting against the other half-step earthly supremacy of the Qingyan territory, and she vaguely had the upper hand. Speaking of which, The Myriad Sword sect was in the most sorry state in the heavenly realm. He had sacrificed another half-step earthly supremacy to pin down the Chinyan territory, but he was beaten back repeatedly. At this moment, Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to Little Seven. Little Seven, restriction breaker hammer, go and help Brother Juan. Okay, don't worry. With our help, he won't be so passive anymore. Little Seven responded and flew to Myriad Sword sect's side with a restriction breaker hammer. With their help, the master of the Myriad Sword sect immediately smiled. He glanced at Yi Shan and continued to fight. Supremacy Qing He, who was ridiculed by Night Sorrow, was completely enraged. His veins were bulging, and he directly ignited the power of his bloodline and fought with his life on the line. Junior, die. This is not your time yet. After Qing, he ignited his bloodline power. He put away the broken halberd and used his speed to close in on Night Sorrow. He was ready to engage in close combat. Close combat, huh? Come on. I'm not afraid of you. Night Sorrow, who was very confident in his close combat ability, saw through Supremacy Qing He's intentions and was not afraid at all. On the contrary, he was quite excited. He put away the golden heavenly halberd and fought with his opponent. Clan M. Chapter 3053. Junior, you overestimate yourself. Seeing that Night Sorrow had chosen to fight him head-on, a sinister smile appeared on Supremacy Qing He's face. At the same time, he roared inwardly. Green Cloud Myriad Transformations Art. He instantly increased the strength of his body by dozens of times and started fighting with Night Sorrow. As a half-step earthly sovereign, Supremacy Qing He's strength was about the same as Night Sorrow's. It was just that his body was slightly weaker. However, after using the Green Cloud Myriad Transformations Art, he instantly gained the upper hand. This was because the Green Cloud Myriad Transformations Art was a divine ability passed down in the Green Cloud territory. How did the strength of Supremacy Qing He's body increase so much in such a short period of time? Night Sorrow, who had been fighting with him for a while, frowned and used the sea serpent's eye to observe. He immediately saw something that normal eyes could not see. The surface of Supremacy Qing He's body was covered in a layer of green energy runes. In the subsequent attacks, Night Sorrow confirmed that it was this layer of green energy runes that was taking effect. His melee attacks were basically all blocked by these energy runes. Therefore, they did not have much effect. What an amazing ultimate technique. Or perhaps you're using a divine ability? After resisting for a while, Night Sorrow looked at Supremacy Qing He and said, for the time being, he really had no way of breaking through his opponent's defense in melee combat. He could only passively take a beating. Oomph. You have a good eye, but what can you do? Our Green Cloud territory's divine ability has an amazing defense. You have no way of breaking it. While suppressing Night Sorrow, Supremacy Qing He sent a voice transmission confidently. Your Green Cloud territory's divine ability is indeed very powerful, but it's not invincible. It was obvious that the Green Cloud territory's divine ability was to increase the cultivator's defense. However, the Godly Realm's divine ability was the sharpest attack. During the conversation, Night Sorrow, who was constantly thinking, knew that he did not have the chance to activate the Divine Finger or the mysterious Immortal Golden Slash in melee combat. Under such circumstances, he did not take out his golden heavenly halberd. Instead, he started thinking about a new ultimate technique. After being suppressed by Supreme Qing He for about 100 breaths, Night Sorrow finally comprehended a new supreme technique amidst the other party's arrogant laughter. He channeled all the power of the Divine Finger into his fingertip. Then, he would use the power contained in his finger to fight against Paragon Qing He. After the power of the Divine Finger was channeled to his fingertips, Night Sorrow's next attack produced an immediate effect. He scratched one of Paragon Qing He's arms, leaving a bloody wound that was so deep that his bones could be seen. How is this possible? That's impossible. Supremacy Ching, he had a look of disbelief on his face when Knight Sorrow scratched his arm until it bled. What shocked him wasn't that he was injured, but that the divine ability of the clear sky territory was broken. This was something he simply could not accept. Nothing is impossible. Since your defense has been breached, then just wait for your death. In the process of being suppressed, although Knight Sorrow was passive, he relied on his strong fighting spirit to successfully resolve the opponent's attacks time and time again. At this moment, he was already able to breach the other party's defenses, so it did not take long for him to gain the upper hand in the battle. How is this possible? Could it be that he has already comprehended the divine finger of the divine realm's divine ability to perfection? He can change the way he uses it at will? During the battle, Supremacy Ching, he frowned as he thought about this. However, no matter how he thought about it, it was useless, because he was completely suppressed. How dare you get distracted while fighting me? Knight Sorrow, who knew that his opponent was letting his imagination run wild, roared and attacked again. This time, not only did Knight Sorrow use his finger to channel the divine finger, but he also cast the divine essence trapping formation. He trapped Supremacy Ching, he within it. Junior, you're always so overconfident. Let's see how you're going to die. Logically speaking, the trapped Supremacy Ching, he should have been in despair. However, he did not. Instead, he burst into a confident grin. Then, Supremacy Ching, he summoned a battle pet that was about as strong as him in the enclosed space. This battle pet was a tall white ape. The white ape had 8 arms, and each of them held a weapon. After being summoned, the white ape roared at the sky and cooperated with Supremacy Ching to launch a fierce attack on Knight Sorrow. This isn't going to be easy. In a one-on-one battle, Knight Sorrow could easily suppress Supremacy Ching. However, now that he summoned the white ape, it was a 2-on-1 battle. In an instant, Knight Sorrow was once again suppressed. He felt a little helpless as he murmured to himself. At this moment, the other people in the divine realm were also evenly matched with the other party. They were vaguely in a passive position. The only one who had the upper hand was the Myriad Sword sect. With the help of the restriction-breaking hammer and Little Seven, he was suppressing the other party's half-step earthly sovereign. Therefore, Knight Sorrow immediately sent a voice transmission to the Myriad Sword sect. Brother Juan, I'm placing all my hopes on you in this battle. Cooperate with the restriction-breaking hammer and Little Seven and quickly kill your opponent. Then come and help me. Don't worry. We'll be able to finish him off very soon. While the Myriad Sword sect sent a voice transmission to Knight Sorrow, he unleashed his strongest fighting spirit. He transformed into a sword and fought with the other party. However, although he had the upper hand, it was still difficult for him to kill the other party in a short time. What should I do? The Myriad Sword sect, who knew that Knight Sorrow was fighting against 2 people at once, was extremely anxious. However, there was nothing he could do. At this moment, Little Seven suddenly said, "Forget it. I'll unleash my power once." How are you going to unleash your power? The Myriad Sword sect asked curiously. You'll know when you see it. Little Seven sighed, and the tower suddenly erupted with a bright light that filled the sky. These rays of light quickly gathered together. It formed a transparent human body. After the energy gathered into a human body, its strength was similar to that of a half-step earthly sovereign. Then, it did not continue to help the Myriad Sword sect. Instead, it rushed to Knight Sorrow's side. Your Little Seven? Yishang asked doubtfully when he saw the performance of the ability to measure his body. That's me. But this time, I've used up a lot of my accumulated power for hundreds of thousands of years. You'll have to compensate me later, Little Seven said faintly. Don't worry. I'll leave most of the gains this time to you, Knight Sorrow said with a smile. If Little Seven had not unleashed his power at the critical moment, their heavenly realm territory would really have to withdraw from this small grotto heaven. Now, they had the confidence to fight. It's not just the battle in front of us. During the fight for fortuitous opportunities, I'll also absorb a lot of energy. Otherwise, it'll be very difficult to make up for the consumption this time. Little Seven said and continued, I'll help you restrain the white ape. You continue to fight with supremacy Qing He. Remember, in the battle quickly. I won't be able to hold on for long. Don't worry. I'll kill him as soon as possible. Night Sorrow said. Then, he added, as for the energy, you can absorb as much as you want. Clan M. Chapter 3054. Since you've said that, anything is negotiable. Little Seven replied cheerfully and started fighting the 8-armed white ape. Strangely, after the battle started, Little Seven, who was originally in his human form, suddenly transformed into the 8-armed white ape. The 8-armed white ape fighting him was completely enraged by Little Seven and started attacking him crazily. However, Little Seven, who had transformed into the 8-armed white ape, was not afraid of the 8-armed white ape at all and easily blocked its attacks. Seeing that Little Seven was temporarily holding off the 8-armed white ape, Night Sorrow felt a little relieved. However, he knew very well that Little Seven would not be able to hold on for long. The Myriad Sword sect would also not be able to withstand the other party's half-step earthly supremacy. Therefore, when facing Paragon Qing He again, Night Sorrow unleashed all his combat power and fought him crazily. This time, Paragon Qing He's defense was no longer unbreakable in close combat. Not long after the battle started, he was forced into a passive position. After being suppressed by Night Sorrow, Paragon Qing He, who was in danger of losing his life at any moment, looked at the others and realized that both sides were evenly matched. The other battles were very tense, and they were not progressing as quickly as his side. He had wanted to call for help, but when he realized that there was no one to call for help, he suddenly had an ominous feeling. He thought to himself, that little Beastra's Stard is much stronger than I expected. There's nowhere to run to in the Grotto Heaven. What should I do? How dare you get distracted? Die. Night Sorrow, who realized that Paragon Qing He was starting to think of a way out, still had the upper hand. With a loud roar, he broke one of Paragon Qing He's arms. After losing half of his arm, Paragon Qing He let out a beast-like roar. His brows were filled with resentment. However, he quickly put away his resentful expression. He sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow, actually, we don't have to resort to violence to solve this matter. We can definitely talk about it. Oh, what do you want to talk about? Night Sorrow asked in return. His attacks didn't stop for even a moment. Don't continue to kill us. If you let us go, I'll secretly teach you the Qingyun territory's inherited mystical ability, the Qingyun Myriad Transformations art. After Paragon Qing, he said that Night Sorrow was still attacking him. He continued, I can swear that what I've imparted to you is the true divine ability of inheritance. There is absolutely no falsehood in it. You've already mastered the God's Finger. If you learn the Myriad Transformations, you'll definitely be able to fuse them together to create a new and powerful mystical ability. It's also a good thing for the upcoming fight for the opportunity. Oh, why do you say that? We can really do it. Hearing Paragon Qing He's words, Night Sorrow was a little tempted. The most precious thing in every territory was the inheritance of the divine ability. Night Yi was the Myriad, Sword Myriad, Transformations, Night God. However, he was not a child. He continued to attack the other party during the conversation. However, it will be very painful for me to pass on the inheritance to you privately. If the people in the territory find out, I will definitely die a horrible death. While we're fighting, I'll secretly teach you. Also, you have to promise not to use this mystical ability in front of the cultivators of the Qingyun territory. How about that? Supremacy Qing, he bargained with him. He was clearly a coward who was afraid of death. You're about to be destroyed, so what right do you have to bargain? Night Sorrow snorted in disdain and said, Immediately swear a heavenly Tao oath to teach me the mystical ability. As for me, I won't make any oaths to restrict myself. However, I can promise that I'll try my best not to let the people of the Qingyun territory know about this. That's great. Paragon Qing, he replied, and immediately swore a heavenly Tao oath. Then he secretly taught the Myriad Transformations art to Night Sorrow. After learning the Myriad Transformations art, Night Sorrow had already mastered 3 mystical abilities. However, he did not have the time to study it now. He sent a voice transmission to Paragon Qing and said, "How do you think we should end this battle? There's a way. I'll pretend to lose to you and let you capture me. After you capture me, you can kill all the people of the Qingyun territory present here. Then you can let me go." Paragon Qing, he sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. In order to survive and not expose what had happened today, he had really made up his mind. In order to survive, you're really despicable and shameless. Night Sorrow said disdainfully, but he did not object. After all, Paragon Qing, he had already used the Myriad Transformations art to buy his life. In the ensuing battle, Paragon Qing, he was indeed captured by Night Sorrow, just as he said. Then, the 8-armed white ape was also recalled. Without the 2 top combatants, Paragon Qing, he and the 8-armed white ape, the strength of the Qingyun territory decreased by about 30% in an instant. How could they resist the attacks of the people of the heavenly realm? After Night Sorrow joined the battle, the people of the Qingyun territory were quickly suppressed. However, they were not as humble as Paragon Qing. They had no intention of surrendering at all. In the end, they were all sucked into the eternal divine tower. This time, they were transformed into laws and essences. Little Seven absorbed all of them and did not leave them for Niezhonglan. This was because he had consumed a lot of energy at a critical moment and needed these to make up for it. After wiping out the people of the Qingyun territory, Night Sorrow let Paragon Qing out. He said, "You can leave now." "All right, I'll leave right away. Paragon Qing, he nodded and bowed. Then, he said, "Please teleport me out." "Jingyan, let him go." Night Sorrow glanced at Jingyan. "Let him go." Jingyan, who usually obeyed Yishang's every word, was surprised when she heard this. It was not only her. The others in the heavenly realm were also puzzled. Seeing everyone's reaction, Night Sorrow continued, "Let him go, and I'll explain the cause and effect of this matter." "All right, you can leave now." When Jingyan heard this, she immediately opened the passage to the small grotto heaven and let Paragon Qing out. After Paragon Qing, he left, Night Sorrow immediately told them about the Qingyun Myriad Transformations art. Hearing this, everyone in the heavenly realm came to a realization and felt that it was appropriate. At this moment, Night Sorrow said with some doubt, "Actually, I think there's something fishy about this matter. They clearly know that they can enter but not leave the small grotto heaven, and it's very difficult to kill the cave master. It's very easy for them to be trapped in the small grotto heaven. So why would they come here with blind confidence?" That's indeed the case. Maybe they have a way to leave the small grotto heaven, or maybe it's because of something else. Xiao Tianxian made a random analysis, but he did not give any useful information. Yi Shang and the others didn't pursue the matter. After chatting for a while, Night Sorrow said, "It's better to enjoy together than to enjoy alone. Next, I'll impart the Qingyun Myriad Transformations art to everyone." Clan M. Chapter 3055. Brother Yi is really generous. If an ordinary person obtained such a good thing, they would definitely hide it. There are very few people who are so generous to share it. When Night Sorrow was about to share the clear Cloud 1000 Transformations art, Myriad Sword Sect immediately laughed and praised. Everyone is on the same side. There's nothing that can't be shared. Night Sorrow said with a smile and continued, "It's the same as the God's finger. I'll teach it one by one. After everyone learns it, try your best to comprehend and fuse the 2 divine abilities. Strive to fuse them into a new absolute art." "Good. Don't worry. With the God's finger as a precedent, after we learn the clear Cloud 1000 Transformations art, we will definitely have great gains. Morong Ji Lu said confidently. In today's battle, if not for everyone comprehending a new absolute art from the god's finger, they would definitely not have been able to resist the cultivators of the clear cloud territory for so long. Since they had tasted the sweetness, they also had the mood and motivation to continue studying. Changlin, go first. In recent years, Nie Zhonglin had been staring at the screen and did not cultivate much. Night Sorrow was the first to impart the clear cloud, thousand transformations art to him. After teaching, Night Sorrow looked at Nie Zhonglin and said, Changlin, the energy absorbed by the eternal divine tower this time is all used to repair itself. So, you need to postpone the matter of you advancing to the supreme stage. After everyone finishes learning, I'll let the restriction-breaking hammer stare at the screen. Let's all cultivate together. All right, I have to catch up with the progress too. In the battle just now, the combat strength that Nie Zhonglin displayed was already a certain gap with everyone. At this moment, he was ready to work hard to catch up. Go and fuse. I heard that the eternal supreme world's divine abilities can be fused infinitely. It's fine if it's just 2 or 3, but if you fuse too many, it will be a test of your comprehension. It shouldn't be difficult for you to fuse 2 divine abilities now. You can add your own comprehension of cultivation into it. Night Sorrow instructed Nie Zhonglin and continued to teach the clear cloud, thousand transformations art to the others. After teaching, Night Sorrow rested for a while and began to study the fusion of the 3 divine abilities. About 2 years' time, he fused a new absolute art. This was a very sharp spear technique. The offensive power of the divine general finger, the defensive power of the green cloud mantra, the speed of the Shintian secret shadow, and the battle experience in his head were all combined into one. Night Sorrow eventually named this spear technique Qing Xin Godly Spear Technique. After this move was fused, Night Sorrow decided not to use the spear arts that he had comprehended or fused in the past. This was because the Qing Xin Godly Spear Technique was the essence of what he had learned in the past. He had integrated all his previous understandings into it. If I were to fight another round with Qing Xin Prime, I should be able to win even more easily. After fusing the Azure Profound Divine Spear Technique, Night Sorrow practiced it a few times in his mind and confirmed that it was much stronger than the immortal Golden Slash. However, the others were still fusing their own unique skills, so he didn't make any noise. He calmly stayed where he was and tried to figure out the other absolute arts, but he didn't gain much. Not long after, the male hammer of the prohibition-breaking hammer reminded him, Night Sorrow, another cultivator has shown up. Looking at their strength, they should be very strong. Oh, let me see. Night Sorrow, who had been awakened, immediately looked at the screen. The group of people on the screen did look very strong. Moreover, one of them seemed to have the strength of an earthly sovereign. They should be from the heavenly owl territory and are our sworn enemies. The one leading them should be an earthly sovereign. Logically speaking, an earthly sovereign would be suppressed to the level of a half-step earthly sovereign in the supreme space. However, I think this group of people must have the means to break through the grotto heaven. They are definitely not to be trifled with. Night Sorrow said with a frown as he thought of Mu Tianai, who had been killed. Tianshao territory was one of the 4 holy lands of the eternal supreme world. Moreover, both sides had old and new grudges. If they encountered each other, there would definitely be a battle. The current strength of the heavenly realm was definitely not a match for Tianshao territory. Other than an earthly sovereign, Tianshao territory also had 5 half-step earthly sovereigns, more than 10 upper earthly sovereigns, and more than 20 ordinary sovereigns. With such a lineup, let alone the heavenly realm, any other territory would not dare to say that they would have the upper hand. Their strength is really strong, Xiong Chue exclaimed. He could faintly feel a trace of pressure towards the earthly sovereigns of Tianshao territory. We'll try our best to avoid them. Moreover, I think they're after the opportunity in the sky above the grotto heaven. Otherwise, they wouldn't have used such a lineup. Night Sorrow looked at the cultivators of Tianshao territory and analyzed their movements. The opportunity in the sky above the 3,000 grotto heavens was useless to an earthly sovereign. The earthly sovereigns of Tianshao territory had brought so many sovereigns here. They were obviously up to something big. Hearing this, Xiong Chui, who was originally a little afraid of the earthly sovereigns of Tianshao territory, suddenly said, "If there's a big battle in the winter, can we try and get a share of it? If we can get something that's useful to earthly sovereigns, then that's a good idea, but it's too dangerous. But now that you mention it, I'm really tempted. When the time comes, we'll observe the situation carefully. If there's a chance, we'll give it a shot." When Night Sorrow heard Xiong Chui's words, he pondered for a moment and thought of a way to pull a tooth out of the tiger's mouth. Anyway, the realm of the gods was currently the enemy of the entire world. He was not afraid of offending anyone. When the people of the realm of the gods woke up from their cultivation, it would be very close to the opportunity. At this time, Night Sorrow told them about snatching the food from the tiger's mouth. Hearing Night Sorrow's suggestion, the people of the realm of the gods frowned. Although they were tempted, they felt that if they attacked the earthly sovereigns, they might be killed. Here's what I'm thinking. I'll use the resources in the 3,000 grotto heavens to advance to the level of sovereign. Then I'll go after the good stuff in the grotto heavens. Night Sorrow said, then continued. But this matter requires everyone's cooperation. Because of the importance of war, I have to advance to the level of a sovereign in the shortest time possible. I need everyone to fight for resources for me. That's not a problem. Helping Brother Yi to advance into the supremacy stage. Wasn't this something that we've already agreed on long ago? When he heard Night Sorrow's words, Jin Xian's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. The other cultivators of the realm of the gods were also filled with fighting spirit. However, before the opportunity came, another group of cultivators arrived in the grotto heavens controlled by Jing Yun. These people were from the Azure territory, and the leader was Lan Xian from the Azure territory. After arriving in the grotto heavens, Yuan Fengxue wanted to greet Lan Xian. But at this time, Lan Xian sneered and said, "I didn't expect to meet you here." Chapter 3056. Blue Heart's tone was provocative, and there was a mocking smile on her face. Her attitude was very playful, not like friends greeting each other, but more like enemies meeting. When Blue Heart had cooperated with the people of the God world, they had treated her well and allowed her to advance. That was until Night Sorrow had a conflict with Fairy Yu Yin and the others of the Moon Shadow territory in the square, where the finals were held. Blue Heart had parted ways with Night Sorrow and the others in front of everyone. The people of the God world were very unhappy with such an attitude. Yuan Fengxue, who had wanted to greet her amiably, raised his eyebrows and sneered. Blue Heart. Blue Heart. Back then, my territory in the God realm took good care of you during the battle for Providence. Is this your attitude when you meet us? Huh, I'm a sovereign. Do I need to be nice when I meet you ants of the sovereign realm? Blue Heart laughed out loud after she finished speaking. Some of the supreme beings standing behind him started laughing too. Their laughter was very loud and ear-piercing. The people of the God world glanced around. Including Blue Heart, there were a total of 12 sovereigns in the Azure territory. There was even a half-step earthly sovereign among them. Blue Heart, you're really an ingrate. You've become a sovereign, and you even came with a group of sovereigns. Do you think you're so great? Master Wan Jian glanced sideways at Blue Heart. I've become a sovereign. I'm not the same kind of person as you. Blue Heart laughed disdainfully when she heard Master Wan Jian's words. She looked at Night Sorrow and said, Night Sorrow, you were the champion of the Battle of Providence that day. Now, you can hand over the champion's reward and the replica of the Eternal Divine Tower. If I remember correctly, that replica should be an earthly sovereign artifact. A sovereign ant like you can't protect it. In her opinion, she had more than 10 sovereigns on her side, while the people of the God world had participated in the Battle of Providence. There was no sovereign at all. The difference in strength between the two sides was like heaven and earth. Dominator rank ants? After Blue Heart finished speaking, Knight Sorrow revealed a trace of a cold smile on his face. Since the ruler is an ant, why don't you, a supreme rank expert, fight with a dominator rank ant like me? If you win, I'll give you everything you want. Haha, Knight Sorrow, I know that you're a person with great luck, and you have the ability to fight across realms. But don't you think it's ridiculous for you to say something like that at this time and place? Lon Xian sneered and pointed behind her. Today, there are so many Supremes in the Azure territory. They're here to do something big. I don't have time to argue with you. Hand it over immediately. Otherwise, all of you will die. You're really a heartless woman. Since that's the case, we have nothing more to say. Let's see who's better. Knight Sorrow took out the golden heavenly halberd and held it horizontally. Infuriated, he transmitted his voice to the others in the divine world. Attack! There's no need to be merciful when dealing with such people. Of course, we won't be merciful to her. The Myriad Sword Sect's people immediately replied to Knight Sorrow. The people of Azure territory looked down on them with disdain. They didn't even put them in their eyes. In fact, they didn't put them in their eyes either. After all, they had defeated the Green Cloud territory and obtained their sacred art. Compared to Azure Sky territory's lineup, Azure territory's lineup could only be described with one word: weak. However, the people of Azure territory obviously didn't think so. Seeing that Knight Sorrow had the attitude to fight, Azure territory's leader, Lan Su, raised his eyebrows in disdain and sneered. Junior, you still want to fight with us? Who gave you the courage? Kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistakes. Otherwise, you won't be able to die even if you want to. We won't die? Of course it's impossible, because the ones who will die are you. Yishang bellowed and unleashed an immortal mystical gold slash at Lan Su. He was not going to use this move after he had merged the Qingxian Godly Spear technique, or rather, the Qingxian Godly Spear. However, he felt that he didn't need to use his strongest technique against Lan Su. Oh, ignorant junior, you dare to attack me? It seems like you really don't know what a half-earthly sovereign is. As Azure Territory's #1 expert, Lan Su's heart had always been filled with flattery. His self-confidence was bursting. Seeing that Knight Sorrow was about to attack, Lan Su waved his hand casually, wanting to slap Knight Sorrow to death. The person who wanted to slap me to death last time has already been slapped to death by me. It seems like you want to repeat the same mistake. Lan Su was still so arrogant in the battle, and Knight Sorrow was completely enraged. At the same time that he attacked with the mysterious immortal golden slash, he suddenly formed a divine vitality trap array and trapped Lan Su within it. Then, he suddenly attacked with a slash. Boom! Lan Su, who didn't use his full strength, didn't expect Knight Sorrow to be able to unleash an attack that wasn't inferior to his own. Due to his carelessness, he was immediately sent flying and crashed heavily into the hard stone wall of the small hollow. Your so-called half-earthly sovereign is just SOSO. You can't even take one hit. Knight Sorrow sent Lan Su flying, which shocked everyone in Azure territory, especially Lan Xian, who looked as if she had seen a ghost. She knew Lan Su's strength very well. She muttered, "This is impossible. How is this possible? How many years has it been? And he has already reached this level." Under Azure Territory's full nurturing, Lan Xian had quickly advanced to the earthly sovereign level, which made her extremely proud. However, when she saw Yi Shan's battle prowess, the pride in her heart was instantly shattered. Originally, she thought that she was already ranked first among those who had participated in the Battle of Providence. There are many things that you think are impossible. Come, let's fight. At this time, Jin Xian suddenly appeared in front of Lan Xian, ready to fight. Do you think you can humiliate me? Seeing Jin Xian in front of her, Lan Xian was immediately enraged. When she came into contact with the people in the realm of the gods, she knew that Jin Xian was the weakest in the realm of the gods. Now, They had actually sent the weakest one to fight her. Wasn't this a slap in the face? But that's fine too. I'll kill you one by one. Let's see if you have Knight Sorrow's ability. Lan Xan shouted, and then the battle intent in her body completely exploded as she began to fight Jin Xian. Seeing that Jin Xian and Lan Xian were fighting, Knight Sorrow reminded him, Jin Xian, use more of your merged superpowers. You don't have an advantage in terms of cultivation level, but your understanding of superpowers is definitely not something that she can compare to. Brother Yi, don't worry. I won't lose this battle. Jin Xian replied to Knight Sorrow, and then used his newly merged superpower on Lan Xian. Clan M. Chapter 3057. Jin Xian's attack was a combination of the Divine Finger, the Green Cloud 1000 Transformations art, and the Golden Crow's Bloodline talent. He had yet to name it. With this attack, tens of thousands of rays of golden light appeared in the air. These rays of golden light were Jin Xian's unique golden flames. These golden flames contained sharp sword rays that the Golden Crow's flames did not have before. These sword rays came from the Divine Finger. Furthermore, these sword rays had been strengthened by the Green Cloud 1000 Transformations art, so they were extremely tough. Facing this attack, Blue Heart was originally filled with arrogance. However, after choosing to face it head-on, she immediately realized that she was wrong. She, who had already become a supreme being, took this attack head-on, and her body was immediately pierced by the sword rays. If it wasn't for her good luck that her Dantian wasn't hit, she would have been crippled immediately. How is this possible? Isn't he the weakest in the realm of the gods? How did he become so strong? Blue Heart looked at Jin Xian in disbelief. She had become so pathetic in an instant. Upon closer inspection, she realized that Jin Xian's aura was not any weaker than hers. Although he was only half a step away from becoming a supreme being. What the hell is going on? Blue Heart screamed her heart. She could not understand how Jin Xian could become so strong in such a short time. What? Can't believe what is happening? You will soon understand that a heavenly dragon is not the same as an ant. We are completely different. After Jin Xian severely injured Blue Heart, he became even more confident and continued to attack Blue Heart. While Blue Heart was fighting Jin Xian, she realized that the other people in the Azure territory were also being suppressed. Even the strongest person in their territory, Lan Su, was completely suppressed by Knight Sorrow. He could not fight back at all. If he had been hit once, it might have been due to luck. However, if he was continuously suppressed, it was a reflection of his strength. How? Seeing that everyone in Azure territory was being suppressed, Blue Heart had a look of disbelief on her face as her brows furrowed. She wanted to say something, but her mind was blank. She could not say anything. She knew that if she had not been mocked, the people in the realm of the gods would not have attacked her. However, it was too late now. If she did not think of a solution, everyone in the Azure territory would be killed. This made Blue Heart feel despair. Blue Heart was being suppressed by Jin Xian and didn't know what to do. The first person in Azure territory, Lan Su, had completely collapsed. Under Knight Sorrow's suppression, he shouted, "Stop! All of you stop! Everything that happened today was a misunderstanding." Misunderstanding? You killed all of us. Is this a misunderstanding? Knight Sorrow replied coldly as he waved the golden heavenly halberd in his hand. In today's battle, he did not display his strongest Qing Xian godly spear technique, but he still easily suppressed his opponent. Knight Sorrow was quite satisfied with this result. At this time, he glanced at the people in the divine world and found that their eyes were locked on Lan Su's face. He immediately understood what these people were thinking. They wanted the Azure territory's divine ability. At this moment, Master 10,000 Swords transmitted his voice. Divine abilities were good stuff. If they hand over the Azure territory's divine ability, it's not impossible for us to let them go. Don't worry, I know what to do. When it comes to divine abilities, no one would complain about having too many of them. Knight Sorrow replied with a smile. But at this time, Lan Su sighed and said, "Stop fighting. Stop fighting. If you continue to fight, I'll die. Our azure territory offended our friends from the divine world. This is our fault. We're willing to compensate." "Oh, what are you willing to compensate?" Night Sorrow put away the golden heavenly halberd and asked coldly. In the small grotto heaven, the other party would not be able to escape. He did not have to worry about that at all. "We're willing to pay 1,000,000 divine crystals and a half-earthly sovereign divine artifact. If you want a woman, we can give you Blue Heart. Blue Heart is the first beauty in Azure territory." Lan Su continued to speak as he pondered. He knew that if Night Sorrow stopped, it meant that they had a chance to live. "Overlord." Hearing Lan Su's words, Blue Heart's expression changed immediately. She did not expect the Overlord to use her as a bargaining chip immediately. At this time, before Night Sorrow could say anything, Wan Jianzong said with disdain, "Our divine world territory does not need trash as compensation." It was obvious that he did not care about Blue Heart and the half-earthly sovereign divine artifact. After all, compared to divine abilities, they were indeed trash. "You!" Lan Xian's expression had already changed, but when she heard the 10,000 sword sex words, she was so angry that her face darkened. She had never been treated like this in her life. "What about you? We don't want you. Your bargaining chip is not sincere at all. Prepare to die. You brought all of this upon yourselves." Wan Jianzong said with disdain. When they saw an old friend, they had a good impression of her. They did not expect Blue Heart, who had become a sovereign, to be so arrogant. This kind of feeling made him very uncomfortable. "Don't fight. Everything can be discussed. Tell us what you want. As long as we can do it, we'll consider it." Seeing that the people from the Divine World territory were about to attack again, Lan Su scolded Blue Heart and told her to shut up. Hearing this, Wan Jianzong looked at Night Sorrow, and Night Sorrow nodded at him. Wan Jianzong immediately understood and said, "Give us the divine ability of the Azure territory. We can exchange it for your lives. Otherwise, your souls will be destroyed." "What? You want the divine ability of the Azure territory? Overlord, you can't give it to us. We'd rather die than be the sinners of the territory." After Wan Jianzong finished speaking, one of the supremes of the Azure territory shouted. The overlord of the Azure territory, Lan Su, was silent. He was in a fierce battle in his heart. "Overlord, Overlord, you can't agree to this. We can't let the divine ability leak out. It's the capital of the Azure territory in the eternal sovereign world." Seeing that Lan Su was silent and struggling in his heart, even Blue Heart, who was unhappy with him, tried to persuade him. The people from the Divine World territory did not speak, giving him enough time to think. After about 30 breaths, Night Sorrow said coldly, "I won't say anything else. Make your choice." Lan Su, who was silent, was about to speak when he heard Night Sorrow's words, but he stopped. He looked around and saw Blue Heart and the others. Then he looked at Night Sorrow and said, "I can teach you the divine ability, but I have a request. That is, you can only let me go. Kill everyone else." Clan M. Chapter 3058. What? Overlord, what do you mean by that? Hearing Lan Su's words, everyone in the Azure territory was furious. "What I mean is that if I go out alone, no one will know about this, so that more people won't talk." Lan Su said coldly and ran to Night Sorrow's side and said, "Night Sorrow, I'll cooperate with you and kill them all. Then I'll teach you the divine ability." None of them, including Blue Heart, had learned a complete set of divine abilities. "Only I have the complete divine ability." "All right, attack." Facing Lan Xian and the others, Night Sorrow, Xiao Tianxian, Myriad Sword Sect, and the others did not hesitate and directly attacked them. With Lan Su's cooperation, everyone in the Azure territory was quickly killed. Before her soul was destroyed, Lan Xian viciously cursed Lan Su. However, Lan Su did not care at all. To him, staying alive was more important than anything else. Actually, there were definitely cultivators who had integrity and were not afraid of death, but they were definitely in the minority. Most cultivators would make the same choice as Lan Su when faced with such a situation. All right, the matter is more or less settled. We can begin. First, make a heavenly oath. After Little Seven sucked everyone in the Azure territory into the 7th level of the Eternal Divine Tower, Night Sorrow looked at Lan Su and said. Hearing this, Lan Su nodded with a serious expression and made a heavenly oath. Then, he taught the divine ability of the Azure territory to Night Sorrow. The divine ability of the Azure territory was called the Azure Sea. The name was very ordinary, but the aura it gave off was very vast. It could release waves that were tens of thousands of feet high. Night Sorrow had just learned it, and understood that this divine ability's main advantage was its vast concept. As for the sea, it was just a surface. Very good. It's a very powerful divine ability. The power of the Azure Sea Tide could only be sensed and not expressed. Yishan quietly experienced it for a moment and immediately understood the key point. Since Night Sorrow is satisfied with the divine ability, can you let me go? Lan Su saw that Night Sorrow was satisfied and immediately asked, Jingyan, let him go. This Azure Sea is enough to exchange for his life. Night Sorrow looked at Jing Yun and said, All right. Jing Yun, who was already familiar with the path, nodded and looked at Lan Su. You can leave now. Good. Lan Su nodded and left the cave immediately. Why do I feel like there's something in his eyes? After Lan Su left, Xiao Tianxian immediately said with a frown, If it was anyone else who was forced to hand over their divine ability, they would be filled with hatred. It doesn't matter. The gap between us will only grow bigger and bigger. He won't be able to cause any trouble. Night Sorrow continued, Come on, I will teach you the Azure Ocean. The move is only on the surface. You have to think about the power contained within it. The kind of power where the whole world is under one's control is very mysterious. Good, I'll give a try. Master Wan Jian said eagerly. Sure, I'll impart it to you first. Night Sorrow smiled and began to impart the Azure Ocean to Master Wan Jian. At this time, Lan Su, who had left the cave, said with a sinister face, This hatred, I must take revenge. After leaving the cave, controlled by Jing Yun, he did not leave the cave. Instead, he waited for experts. He wanted to pay a price in exchange for experts from other territories to attack Night Sorrow and the others. Night Sorrow, who was not aware of Lan Su's plot, was still imparting the Azure Ocean to others. It didn't take long for everyone in the God world to learn the third divine ability. Night Sorrow, on the other hand, had 4, which was slightly stronger than the others. In terms of movement technique, he was much stronger than the others. However, if he imparted it casually, it might expose his supreme longevity. Therefore, he held back and did not teach it to others. After Night Sorrow finished imparting the divine ability, everyone in the divine realm, just like after they learned the Clear Cloud 1,000 transformations technique, cultivated and fused various divine abilities. After comprehending the force contained in the Azure Sea, their original attacks did not change, although the attack pattern did not change. However, there was an additional power that could swallow heaven and earth, especially Night Sorrow's Qing Xian Godly Spear technique. It was like a surging sea, wave after wave. The improvement was huge. This Azure Ocean is really a good divine ability. My spear technique has become much stronger. After completely recovering from his cultivation, Night Sorrow saw Jing Yun looking at him and said with a smile, That's indeed the case. As expected, every territory's divine ability is not simple. I'm thinking if one day we can fuse the Myriad Tao, how magnificent would that be? After fusing 3 divine abilities, Jing Yun felt that her ultimate technique was as powerful as the mountains and seas. She immediately thought of fusing the Myriad Tao. I feel that if we can truly fuse the Myriad Tao, we won't have to be afraid of those terrifying creatures in the fog. Speaking of the Myriad Tao, Night Sorrow immediately thought of those terrifying creatures that Supreme Longevity mentioned. In his heart, a great pressure suddenly rose. Jingyun, who saw through Night Sorrow's thoughts, smiled and stroked his arm, saying, "Don't worry. The legendary Great Calamity hadn't even come yet. We have time." "Yes, there's still time, but there shouldn't be much time left. We still have to improve our strength as soon as possible. I reckon that when the time comes, ordinary supreme beings will only be cannon fodder." While Night Sorrow sighed, the battle intent in his heart also completely bloomed. Then everyone in the God Realm territory recovered from their cultivation one by one. Everyone's harvest was not bad. Wan Jianzong laughed and said, "In the future, I've decided not to leave Brother Ye's side. Wherever Brother Yi goes, I'll go. This way, sooner or later, I'll become the second expert in the eternal supreme world." Second expert? I also want to compete. Xiao Tianxian also made a rare joke. After the two of them finished speaking, Jingyun, Murong Jinlu, and the others also said in unison, "I also want to compete." "Huh, you guys." Seeing everyone's performance, Night Sorrow's face revealed a trace of smile. These friends in front of him had become his most precious wealth in the eternal supreme world. Then, everyone in the small grotto heaven chatted and laughed as they drank. Recently, they were either fighting or cultivating, and the pressure was relatively high. They felt that it was time for everyone to take a break. Boom! However, just as the wine was drunk, there was an incomparably loud sound in the sky above the grotto heaven. That's the sound. The opportunity from the heavens should have begun. Let's go out. Hearing this sound, Jingyan suddenly raised her eyebrows and said, "Okay, let's go out. Everyone, remember, no matter what, the most important thing is to protect yourself." When everyone flew up, Night Sorrow reminded them. When he flew to the sky above the small grotto heaven, he saw almost 10,000 cultivators. Without a doubt, these were all competitors. Moreover, the number of cultivators was still increasing. Genius remembered the address of this site in a second. Clan Mobile Version Reading Website. Chapter 3059. Many cave masters of the small grotto heavens, like the people of the god world, came out of their grotto heavens after hearing the commotion. In an instant, the sky above the 3,000 small grotto heavens became very lively. This is really a big scene. It's even fiercer than the battle for Providence. Looking at the sea of people in front of him, Master Wan Jian could not help but sigh. At the same time, a strong battle intent rose from his body. Hearing this, Yuan Fengshui snorted and said, "Of course it's much fiercer. Those who participate in the battle for Providence are all rulers. Now, they're basically all supremes. How can it be the same? Today's battle is far more dangerous than before. You should use your brain when fighting. Don't rush forward brainlessly, understand?" I know. There are so many experts in front of us. I won't casually reveal any flaws." Master Wan Jian smiled at Yuan Fengshui. At this time, Night Sorrow was also explaining some things to Jing Yun and Wu Lingfei. The scene in front of them was too big. After the battle, there would definitely be chaos. He had to explain some details clearly. After talking to the two girls, Night Sorrow gathered everyone in the god world and said, "Resources are important, but safety is more important. If you encounter danger, give up the resources in front of you. The world is bustling for profit, and the world is bustling for profit. Most people are here to fight for opportunities. Sometimes, as long as you give up the fight, you shouldn't be targeted. Don't worry. Although everyone's cultivation is relatively low, their battle strength is not inferior to ordinary supremes. It's a bit arrogant to say that we will kill everyone, but if you want to give up the resources to protect yourself, there shouldn't be a problem." Xiao Tianxian understood Night Sorrow's worry and quickly comforted him. When the battle starts later, if anyone encounters danger, directly enter the Eternal Divine Tower. The Eternal Divine Tower is an earthly, supreme artifact. In the sky above the grotto heavens, no one can break through it. After that, Night Sorrow said this and observed the state of the other cultivators. There were definitely more than 10,000 people here, and most of them were unfamiliar faces. Therefore, no one paid attention to them who came from the god world. Moreover, among them, only Jing Yun had the cultivation of supremes. Naturally, she was ignored by the surrounding cultivators. Some of the supreme beings present felt that these people in front of them were simply courting death. Many people had mocking looks on their faces, waiting to see them make a fool of themselves. Oof, don't laugh at us. I don't even like you guys. Everyone else looked at him with disdain, and the Myriad Swords sect grumbled. Knight Sorrow smiled and comforted him. It's okay. It would be great if they could truly fight. Our goal is to obtain resources and increase our strength. I'm not angry. Don't worry. I don't like them at all. In a few more years, all of them will be trash. Master Wan Jian said proudly, then continued, Oh, right. Where are the 3 grotto heavens? Wan Jianzong looked around, but he didn't see any sign of the grotto heaven. Hearing this, Jing Yun replied, The grotto heaven requires a teleportation array to enter. Anyone could use the teleportation matrix, but the armored zombie had no memory of what it would be like after entering it. However, he was extremely afraid of that teleportation array. I've never dared to take even half a step here. Let's discuss this matter at length. Get ready for battle. Looking at the scene before us, the opportunity should be coming soon. Although there are many cultivators in front of us, the 3,000 grotto heavens occupy a large enough space. The battle shouldn't be too intense at the beginning. At this time, Knight Sorrow continued to instruct. The only thing he was worried about was that the people of the heavenly realm would be in danger amidst the chaos. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as Knight Sorrow's voice fell, there was a loud thunderclap in the void. After the thunderclap, a huge black hole suddenly appeared in the void. Looking up at the void, one could see that the black hole in the sky was bigger than the 3,000 grotto heavens combined. It covered a vast area. It's here. It's finally here. I don't know what kind of situation this opportunity will come in. Looking up at Knight Sorrow in the void, he thought to himself. The black hole didn't make Knight Sorrow wait for too long. Soon, the opportunity came. Among the things that came, there were sovereign law and earth sovereign law and earth sovereign law and earth sovereign divine artifacts and various elixirs. The quality of these things were obviously better than some of the things in the eternal sovereign world. As time passed, these things slowly came down. However, some things stopped after a certain distance and didn't come down anymore. Everyone looked around and found that the higher the distance, the better the quality. How could they remain calm? As a few people flew up into the void, the others immediately flew up to fight for the opportunity. However, they found that flying up would be met with a strong force of imprisonment. The higher they flew, the more difficult it was. At this time, Xiong Hammer reminded Knight Sorrow, the higher we go, the greater the pressure. I can see the restriction, but I don't have the ability to break it. The person who set up the restriction must be an earth sovereign or at least a heavenly sovereign. The Taoist rhyme of the restriction has a natural feeling. This is not something an earth sovereign can do. I guess this must be a senior from the eternal sovereign world who is contributing to the eternal sovereign world. But if you want to get good things, you have to prove your strength. Knight Sorrow told the people of the god world and summoned Little Seven. He asked them to take care of everyone and continued to go up. His goal was the best resources. Naturally, he didn't want to fight with others underground. At this time, there were about 100 people who could reach the same height as Knight Sorrow. These 100 sovereigns all had the strength of a half-step earth sovereign. A white-bearded sovereign, who was far away from Knight Sorrow, saw Knight Sorrow fly to such a height with the strength of a half-step earth sovereign. He couldn't help but shout, Little brother, your cultivation is ordinary, but your strength is heaven-defying. In time, when you become a sovereign, I'm afraid you will become an invincible existence. Which territory are you from? Yishang turned around and saw that the white-bearded prime was wearing a Taoist robe that was glittering with jewels. At this time, he was still at ease. Obviously, he still had the ability to go up. However, the old man was completely relaxed and unhurried. After glancing at him, Yishang was immediately shocked. Although the elder was a half-step to earthly sovereign, his true strength was about the same as Yu, earthly sovereign from the Moonshadow estate. The strength of the two's auras was almost the same. With such strength, even Night Sorrow was no match for him. Night Sorrow cupped his fists politely and said, "Senior, you flatter me. I'm Night Sorrow from the God World. Clan M." Chapter 3060. In fact, when Night Sorrow spoke, he was already prepared to fight. After all, the realm of the gods was the enemy of the entire eternal supreme world. An expert with such strength must have come from a stronger territory. "Huh, little brother, don't be nervous." Seeing Night Sorrow's vigilance and fighting spirit, the old man with white eyebrows and a white beard smiled. He said, "I've heard of you. You are the champion of this battle of Providence. With the strength you have shown so far, you really live up to your reputation. Among the sovereigns, you should be the first. I, Baimei Sanren, am very happy to meet such a talented junior like you." Baimei Sanren? Are you Senior Baimei Sanren? When he heard this name, the wariness between Yishang's brows immediately dissipated by quite a bit. He had heard of Baimei Sanren before. He was one of the 10 great itinerant men of the eternal supreme world. The 10 great itinerant men had followed Yin Hengshi or Yin Yin in their previous lives. However, they had all died in battle during the Great Tribulation. Now, they were all reincarnated. They were not interested in the eternal supreme world. Therefore, after reincarnating, they all announced that they had become itinerant men. Because of some of the powerful memories of their previous lives, their strength had increased very quickly. Although they were very strong, they had never attacked anyone in the eternal supreme world. Even when fighting for resources, they had only done so. The 10 of them were usually elusive, as if they were existences that only existed in legends. Night Sorrow did not expect to meet one today. "Haha, it's me." Baimei Sanren saw that Night Sorrow had heard of his name and smiled. At this time, Night Sorrow, who was collecting some earthly supreme rules and essences, asked curiously, "Senior, with your strength, why don't you go to the grotto to fight for better things?" "Huh, if I were to enter the grotto heaven alone, I would have no chance at all. If I am sent in, even if I don't die, I will be crippled." After Baimei Sanren finished speaking, he smiled and asked, "Little brother Knight, are you also interested in the grotto?" "Of course. The Great Tribulation is coming. Who doesn't want to become stronger as soon as possible?" Night Sorrow sighed. In front of Baimei Sanren, he did not hide anything about the Great Tribulation. Hearing this, Baimei Sanren was startled and said, "It's coming again?" When he said this, his body trembled slightly. The battle back then was simply too tragic. Almost all the cultivators of the eternal supreme world had died in battle. If it weren't for the creatures in the foggy area being used to absorbing the energy in the foggy area and occupying the eternal supreme world, the Myriad realms wouldn't have been able to grow at this time. Although it's cruel, it's coming again. These words were spoken by Senior Yin Heng's shadow. After Night Sorrow collected the earthly supreme law and essence in front of him, he continued to move up. Baimei Sanren, who had just collected a divine artifact, heard the name Yin Hengshi and his shoulders trembled. He asked, "Did you encounter Senior Yin Hengshi's shadow in the Battle of Providence? Did you hear about Yan's whereabouts from him?" Back then, Baimei Sanren followed Yin, but he was also in awe of Yin Hengshi. "Senior Whitebrow, are you an old acquaintance of Senior Yin?" Night Sorrow could clearly feel the excitement from Baimei Sanren's body, so he immediately asked, "And NB, yes. I am a general under Yin Hengshi. In the last Great Tribulation, we fought side by side." Baimei Sanren's eyes dimmed as he said, "I witnessed the scene of her being killed with my own eyes. I don't know if she has reincarnated." Senior Yin Hengshi once mentioned Senior Yin. He said that she was only seriously injured back then and did not die in battle. She should be recovering somewhere at this time. Night Sorrow could feel that Bai Mei Sanren was not lying. So he directly told him about Yin. What? Not dead. That's great. That's great. What Yin Hengshi said can't be false. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Bai Mei Sanren immediately laughed out loud. It's just that Senior Yin Hengshi also said that none of the three in the fog area should be dead. Therefore, this great tribulation should be more difficult for our eternal supreme world to survive than the last one. At this time, Night Sorrow said with a frown. Thinking of what Yin Hengshi said, he once again felt that his strength was too weak. None of the three bastards from back then died. That's not fair. What about Yin Hengshi? So what? Is he okay? Bai Mei Sanren continued to ask. Senior Yin Hengshi has completely fallen in the battle back then. In the face of another great tribulation, we can only rely on Senior Yin and ourselves. Night Sorrow said helplessly. In the fog area, there were three supreme existences. However, there was only one territory in the divine realm. Moreover, the number of heavenly sovereigns and earth sovereigns was absolutely in the fog area. This battle was not going to be easy. Time. What our eternal supreme world lacks now is time. Bai Mei Sanren smiled bitterly and said, in fact, the number of geniuses that have emerged in the eternal supreme world today is obviously more than back then. On the whole, the cultivation talent of cultivators was incomparable to that of the past. However, we lack time. I don't know when those three demons will start the war again. On the surface, it looks like our eternal Paragon realm is still going to lose this time. But how can we endure the fate of being slaughtered again and again? Therefore, at present, increasing our strength is very important. This is also the reason why I want to enter the Grotto Heaven. Yishang said. He did not hide his determination to increase his strength. Little Brother Knight, the fact that Yin Hengshi has said so much to you proves that he values you very much. Bai Mei Sanren's eyes flashed and said, why don't I be your guardian? Guardian? What's that? After collecting the Earth's sovereign's rules and essence, Night Sorrow began to move up, looking for elixirs that could increase his strength. At present, his main goal was to advance to the Supreme Realm. After Night Sorrow asked, Bai Mei Sanren said, in layman's terms, I'm a fighter. Whoever dares to deal with you, I will deal with them. I will protect you as you grow, and I will teach you some of the things I have mastered. Senior Whitebrow, this is not good. You have your own path. I can't delay you. When Yishang heard this, he immediately refused. It would be great to have Whitebrow and the other two as helpers, but he did not want a legendary figure to become a vassal. Then cooperate. I'm willing to cooperate with you. What you mean is that if you want to advance to the Supreme Realm, then enter the Grotto Heaven to seize the opportunity. When the time comes, let's do it together. At this time, Bai Mei Sanren continued. Genius remembered this site's address in a second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3061. Let's enter the Grotto Heaven and explore it together. Night Sorrow said. He didn't want to owe the other party too much, as that would make his Taoist heart unstable. Haha, since that's the case, I'll quickly snatch the resources for you to advance. After receiving Night Sorrow's affirmative answer, Bai Mei Sanren immediately flew to a higher area. The height he flew at was obviously higher than anyone else present, and it immediately attracted a lot of attention. Most of the practitioners present had heard of Bai Mei Sanren's name, but none of them recognized him. For a moment, everyone was trying to guess his identity. Just as the crowd was discussing, Bai Mei Sanren started to throw good things at Night Sorrow's location. Earthly sovereign resources, spiritual pills, divine veins. All of them were thrown at Night Sorrow's location. Night Sorrow naturally couldn't refuse such good intentions, so he thought to himself, if there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely make up for all of this. Then he started to collect all kinds of good things. Bastard, if this goes on, all the good things will be taken by this kid. Absolutely not. Seeing that Night Sorrow was continuously receiving resources thrown at him by Bai Mei Sanren, The 20 half-step earthly sovereigns who were flying at the same height as Night Sorrow were all enraged. The height they could fly at was about the same as Night Sorrow's. They couldn't reach Baimei Sanren's height at all. After Yu Xinghui spoke, 3 half-step earthly sovereigns from the Huiwa territory immediately flew toward Night Sorrow, ready to snatch the resources thrown at him by Baimei Sanren. Little brother Night Sorrow, if you let me be your protector, I'll naturally swat these flies away. Seeing the 3 half-step earthly sovereigns attack Night Sorrow to snatch the resources, Yu Xinghui smiled. High up in the sky, Baimei Sanren smiled and said. It was obvious that he had expected this situation to happen. However, when he heard this, Yishong unexpectedly replied, Don't worry, big brother. Just the 3 of them are not enough to threaten me. Junior, aren't you a little too arrogant? Which territory are you from? Tell me your name. Yu Xinghui, a half-step earthly sovereign from the Huiwa territory, had a murderous look on his face. He was not pleased to see a half-martial highness taking all the good stuff here. However, before he attacked, he had to ask about the other party's background. If they were from the 4 great holy lands, he would not dare to offend them in the slightest. Night Sorrow of the Heavenly Realm. Night Sorrow naturally knew why the other party was asking for his name, but he didn't hold anything back. Juhi by Mao, let's go and kill him together. If the one above makes a move, we'll fight together. That little bastard from the God world can't be allowed to live. Cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yu Xinghui, a half-step earthly sovereign from the Radiant Moon territory, immediately transmitted a message to the other 2 half-step earthly sovereigns. These 2 were from the Underworld Star territory and the 100 Ninja territory respectively. The Underworld Star territory and the 100 Ninja territory were among the top 10 eternal sovereigns. Back then, they had all attacked the Supreme Longevity. Upon hearing that Night Sorrow was from the God world, their hearts were filled with murderous intent. They all knew that Night Sorrow had taken the first place in this battle of Providence, so there was no room for him. Cut the weeds and eliminate the roots? You guys are so mighty. I hope that when the great calamity comes, you guys will still be so unyielding. Night Sorrow looked at the other party with a cold look on his face. Oomph, what great calamity. Today is your calamity. Yu Xinghui snorted coldly and roared, Attack. At the same time, a light sword made of starlight appeared in his hand. The light sword was not very big, about 2 meters long. However, after it was taken out, it immediately lit up the entire sky. The aura it contained was extremely powerful. What a powerful divine weapon. If Brother Wan can get it, his strength will definitely increase by a lot. Yu Xinghui took out the light sword and slashed at Night Sorrow. His light sword was called the Starlight Sword. It was the same name as the long swords of the other people in the Starlight territory. However, it was the highest grade sword in the territory. It was close to an earthly sovereign divine weapon. When it slashed an ordinary long sword, it felt like it could cut through iron like mud. Facing it, Night Sorrow had a strange thought in his mind. Then, he directly activated the 33 Heavens Battle secret technique and used the Qingxian Godly Spear technique to fight with his opponent. The Qingxian Godly Spear technique was different from some of the other spear techniques that Night Sorrow had. It was not just a simple attack. When it was used, it was like an endless rain falling on Yu Xinghui. Young man, you have some skills. No wonder you can make it to the end of the Battle of Providence. For a moment, Yu Xinghui, who was suppressed, was not anxious. This was because at this time, the other 2 half-earthly sovereigns, Ju He and 100 Eyes, attacked Night Sorrow at the same time. The other sovereigns, who were about the same height, were collecting resources while keeping an eye on the situation. They did not have any intention of attacking, but they were also keeping an eye out, hoping that no one would suddenly attack them. Don't call me a young man. Can't you see clearly who is stronger and who is weaker? Night Sorrow scolded Yu Xinghui disdainfully, then continued to attack him. The Qingxian Godly Spear technique combined 4 superpowers. Especially after combining with the Azure Sea Tide, The attack was very powerful. It looked like a dense raindrop, but the momentum was really big, like the Overlord's spear. Yu Xinghui was quickly suppressed. After Zhu He and 100 Eyes attacked, Knight Sorrow scolded coldly. "Since you attacked me today, you should kill me directly. Otherwise, I will take your heads, even if I have to go to the ends of the earth." "Young man, you are too arrogant. The Eternal Supreme Realm is not a place for a young man like you to be fierce." Zhu He, who had been scolded, showed a trace of disdain. Then, he took out a long and narrow saber and slashed at Knight Sorrow. This saber was not as good as the Starlight Sword, but it was also very sharp. Facing him, Knight Sorrow did not dare to be careless. While attacking Yu Xinghui, he kept dodging. After learning the Xiantian secret shadow of the Jiuxian territory, his speed was not inferior to any prime. The two of them attacked Knight Sorrow at the same time, but they did not quickly suppress him. Yu Xinghui shouted, "100 Eyes, what are you waiting for?" "I'm looking for an opportunity." The woman called 100 Eyes, while responding to Yu Xinghui, was not in a hurry to attack. When Knight Sorrow and the two of them were extremely anxious, hundreds of eyes suddenly opened on her body. After these disgusting eyes were opened, Lin Fan opened his eyes. Suddenly, hundreds of black lights shot at Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow, who was not at a disadvantage, did not have the slightest fear of Yu Xinghui and Zhu He's attack. However, this attack from 100 Eyes immediately caused a sense of danger to rise from the bottom of his heart. Chapter 3062. At the same time, 100 Eyes said sinisterly, "100 Eyes open, 10,000 gods slay." After chanting this incantation, the hundreds of black lights immediately attacked Knight Sorrow as if they were controlled by a soul. Every single one of the 100 streaks of black light transformed into an extremely evil demon. After these things took shape, they immediately pounced on Knight Sorrow and tore at his soul. It was as if they wanted to pull his soul out of his body. Even though Knight Sorrow had the power to fight the heavens and the earth, he was still unable to withstand it. Facing such an evil attack, he felt a little uncomfortable. "Huh, little brother Knight, how is it? Do you need me to help?" After seeing 100 Eyes attack, Bai Mei Sanren immediately sent a voice transmission to Knight Sorrow. He could see that Knight Sorrow was struggling at this moment. "No need." Knight Sorrow, who was being suppressed, replied coldly, anger rising in his heart. This was the first time he felt like his soul was being pulled at, and he was completely disgusted. "Humph. Are you angry? Be angry. I will let you suffer the baptism of death in your anger. What awaits you will be the destruction of your soul." At this moment, hundreds of eyes were staring at Knight Sorrow, making one's scalp tingle. A technique. Being stared at by 100 Eyes, Knight Sorrow felt uncomfortable in his heart. Soon, he realized that the crux of the problem lay in the eye technique and not the Qi, Mei Wang, Liang, and Ba. At this moment, Yu Xinghui and Zhu He's attacks came one after another. Under the attacks of the three, Knight Sorrow immediately felt the threat of death. In this crisis, he instantly calmed down. In his mind, 100 Eyes' eye technique flashed. At the same time, he remembered some eye techniques that he had come into contact with. If he couldn't break the other party's eye technique, and Knight Sorrow had already said everything, there was no need for Bai Mei Sanren to help. In the blink of an eye, Knight Sorrow comprehended an eye technique that combined the god's finger. He roared Supreme God Eye. In an instant, an extremely powerful beam of light shot out of his sea serpent eye. This beam of light was similar to the attack of the divine finger. However, it was used to counter eye techniques and divine soul attacks. After a beam of light shot out, it went straight for the 100 Eyes' body. The beam of light immediately burned all of the 100 Eyes' eyes. The 100 Eyes of the 100 Eyes were hit by this attack and immediately shed 100 tears of blood. The demons and monsters she had used to restrain Yishan had all disappeared as well. In the blink of an eye. At this time, Yu Xinghui and Zhu He's attacks finally arrived. In the face of their attacks, Night Sorrow immediately used Mysterious Sky's secret shadow to dodge. At this moment of life and death, he no longer had the ability to hide the Mysterious Sky shadow. After using it, he directly dodged the attacks of the two people. Wasn't this movement technique the profound sky secret shadow of the 9 profound territories? A genuine Shintian secret shadow. How is this possible? Seeing Night Sorrow use the genuine Shintian secret shadow, Yuxinghui and Zhu, he were both stunned. On the other hand, the 100-eyed at the side closed all of her eyes tightly. After being attacked by the Supreme God Eye, almost all of her eyes were destroyed. This was not only because Night Sorrow's attack was powerful, but also because she had failed to use her eye technique and suffered a terrifying backlash. Her eye technique was powerful, but it was also accompanied by great danger. As long as it was interrupted, she would suffer a serious backlash. "I'll kill you first, disgusting thing." After recalling the hundreds of eyes of the 100-eyed, Night Sorrow felt disgusted. With a loud roar, he used the mysterious Azure Divine Spear technique to attack. Although all of her eyes were sealed, the 100-eyed still had a trace of strength to fight back. With the help of Yuxinghui and Zhu He, she temporarily resisted Night Sorrow's attack. However, as the battle continued, Night Sorrow gradually gained control of the situation. This was because he realized that although Yuxinghui and Zhu He were very strong, they did not have any special skills. They did not seem to have any secret treasures on them. Experts with such strength do not have any secret treasures on them. This is strange. After Night Sorrow confirmed that the 3 of them did not have any secret treasures on them, he began to fight more fiercely. Soon, the 3 of them were completely suppressed. Seeing that Night Sorrow was beginning to gain the upper hand, Bai Mei and the other 2 suddenly said, "The 3 of them are just doppelgangers. But their real bodies are not far away. If I'm not wrong, they followed someone into the Grotto Heaven." "What? They are all doppelgangers." Hearing Bai Mei Sanren's words, Night Sorrow was surprised. However, the 100-eyed and the rest performance soon confirmed Bai Mei and the other 2's words. Seeing that they could not resist Night Sorrow's attack, the 100-eyed shouted maliciously, "Junior, just you wait. This is not over. Even if I have to chase you to the ends of the earth, I will dig out your eyeballs. I think it won't be long before we meet again." Bai Mei Sanren guessed that the 3's real bodies were in the Grotto Heaven. Night Sorrow felt that his guess was reliable. The 3 of them could not have only sent their doppelgangers to fight for the opportunity. When the doppelgangers were in danger, the real bodies did not come to help. It was very likely that they were fighting in the Grotto Heaven and had no time to care. Otherwise, the 3's real bodies would have come to kill them. Since their real bodies were most likely in the Grotto Heaven, Night Sorrow was prepared to fight again after he advanced. "Junior, don't be so arrogant. Just you wait," Yuxinghui replied unhappily. Then, he looked at the other 2 and said, "Don't talk nonsense with him. Let's go." "Okay." Zhu He agreed and disappeared in the void. Soon after, the other 2 people also disappeared. They must have gone to meet up with their real bodies. Looking in the direction that the 3 had disappeared, Bai Mei Sanren made a guess. Then he said, "Brother Knight, you are in the sovereign realm, but you have not been defeated by 3 top earthly sovereigns. This is a talent that can be seen with the naked eye. Let me be your protector." "Senior Bai Mei, Night Sorrow has grown up in battles. If I am taken care of by someone and have someone to rely on, I may lose my fighting direction. So forget it." Night Sorrow replied and continued to fight for the opportunity in the void. The scene of him defeating the 3 half-step to earthly sovereigns had been seen by the people around him. Moreover, there were many resources in the void, so there was no one looking for trouble with him. Under such circumstances, Night Sorrow collected some more resources. Then, he looked at Bai Mei Sanren and said, "Senior Bai Mei, can Night Sorrow ask you for a favor?" "What favor? What is it?" White-browed, unaffiliated cultivator smiled. I am going to find a place to break through to the sovereign realm. If you have the ability, please help Night Sorrow take care of my friends in the realm of the gods." Night Sorrow bowed to Baime Sanrin and said, "Clan M." Chapter 3063. Take care of them? No problem, but in my opinion, they don't need anyone to take care of them. Baime Sanrin smiled as he looked down. At this moment, the people of the heavenly realm were fighting with the supremes of other territories. They were fighting for resources. They were fighting with supremes of the same height and were not at a disadvantage. At this point, no one had been absorbed into the eternal divine tower. Moreover, they had gained a lot. Night Sorrow followed Baime Sanrin's gaze and looked over. Wan Jianzong immediately said, "Brother Yi, come over. We have gathered a lot of resources. Together with what you have, you should be able to break through to the Supremes." "No need, Brother Wan. With Senior Whitebrow's help, I have obtained enough resources. I'm going to break through to the Supremes now. Take care of yourselves. Keep all the resources you have obtained." Night Sorrow looked at the people of the heavenly realm, then pointed at Baime Sanrin and said, "This is Senior Whitebrow. If you encounter any danger, you can ask him for help." Senior Whitebrow. When the people of the heavenly realm heard Night Sorrow's introduction, they immediately greeted Baime Sanrin. "Huh, good. If you have any problems, send me a message." Whitebrow Wanderer greeted everyone and then flew up into the sky where there was no one else. No one could approach the height he could reach. Therefore, the best things were basically all taken by him. Seeing Baime Sanrin fly to the highest altitude, Wan Jianzong could not help but sigh. "If only I had such strength. If you had such strength, you would have entered the grotto heaven to fight for the good things." Yuan Fengshua joked after Wan Jianzong finished speaking. Then, they continued to fight for the resources in front of them. As for Night Sorrow, with Jing Yun's help, he returned to the grotto heaven and absorbed the various resources in peace. He had already reached the pinnacle of the sovereign realm. Now that he continued to absorb the earthly supremes' laws and essences, his body and soul quickly reached the pinnacle of the sovereign realm. At this peak, Night Sorrow encountered a small bottleneck. That was a mental shackle. In about 4 hours, he had successfully overcome it. These resources are truly divine. This was especially true for the supreme blood essence of a peak-grade supreme being. Its quality was simply heaven-defying. If I hadn't absorbed them, I would have needed tens of thousands of years of bitter cultivation to reach the supremacy level so quickly. And that was in the eternal sovereign world. If we were in the God realm, who knows how much time it would take? Night Sorrow, who slowly stood up from the grotto heaven, suddenly felt a little emotional. However, he didn't stop at all. He directly flew up into the void to welcome the lightning tribulation that was brewing. Logically speaking, the lightning tribulation energy body of the sovereign realm should be extremely powerful. However, Night Sorrow's heart was as calm as still water, without the slightest ripple. This was the confidence he had developed after transcending tribulation so many times. Not long after, the sovereign thunder tribulation body appeared. It was similar to Night Sorrow's tribulations in the past, but the energy contained in its body was obviously much stronger. After it appeared, it grabbed the lightning in its hand and struck towards Night Sorrow. "Good timing. I can use your lightning to train my body." Night Sorrow, who was flying horizontally, held the golden heavenly halberd in his hand, but he didn't brandish it. Instead, he used his body to welcome the lightning attack of the lightning tribulation energy body. Being struck by lightning of such intensity, even if Night Sorrow's body was very strong, it was still very uncomfortable. However, he gritted his teeth and persevered. Still nothing. He attacked the lightning tribulation energy body and continued to rely on it to train his body. However, to Night Sorrow's surprise, this time, the lightning tribulation energy body seemed to have some intelligence. In a situation where its continuous attacks didn't have any effect, it suddenly chose to self-destruct. It wanted to use self-destruction to kill Night Sorrow. Jingyun, quickly let me out of the small world. Night Sorrow, who realized that the lightning tribulation energy body was going to use self-destruction to kill him, immediately sent a voice transmission to Jingyun. Husband, you can come out now. Jingyun, who received the voice transmission, immediately recited the incantation. After she spoke, Night Sorrow immediately flew out of the small world. The moment he flew out, the lightning tribulation energy body completely exploded inside. It caused the entire world to tremble a few times. What happened there? The commotion was too big, and it immediately attracted the attention of many people. Many people locked their eyes on it. At this moment, Night Sorrow was gradually trying to restrain his aura. This was because he realized that after he had truly advanced to the Supreme Being level, he couldn't control his aura at all. His entire person looked radiant and colorful, which didn't match his character. Little brother Knight, congratulations on successfully advancing to the Supreme Being level. You have taken the most important step. Everyone who advances to the Supreme Being level will uncontrollably overflow their aura. You don't have to deliberately control it. At this moment, Baimei Sanren, who was originally continuing to fight for resources in the void, said with a smile, Senior Baimei, why did you say that I have taken the most important step? Hearing the other party's words, Night Sorrow asked in puzzlement. Supreme Being, Earth Supreme Being, Heaven Supreme Being, Supreme Being level. In fact, they're all Supreme Beings, and those below the Supreme Being level are ants. Now, you are truly on your way, Baimei Sanren explained. Yes, now that Senior has said it, it does seem to make sense. At the very least, I have caught up with one step. Night Sorrow nodded and continued, I still need to help my friends in the territory with resources. When the resources are enough for them to advance to the Supreme Being level, Senior and I will travel together and enter the Grotto Heaven to explore. How about that? Great. But don't call me Senior in the future. Just call me brother. Baimei Sanren said with a smile. This was the same as Mo Chantian's address. Night Sorrow felt that it was quite natural to call him that. So he said, Then I will have to trouble you to wait for me for a while. You have helped me so much this time. We will strive to fight for suitable resources in the Grotto Heaven to help you advance to the Earth Supreme Being level. Speaking of which, it is strange. The rules and essences that can advance to the Earth Supreme Being level are clearly distributed in the fog. But for some reason, the 3,000 Grotto Heavens will drop some every time. It is strange. Baimei Sanren said doubtfully. He more or less knew some things about the 3 Grotto Heavens, but the extent of his understanding could only be considered superficial. Maybe this is called the will of the heavens. Maybe the heavens don't want the strength of both sides to be too unbalanced. Night Sorrow said and flew up into the sky. This time, his strength had advanced to the level of lower Supreme Being. It was much easier to fly up than when he was a half-step Supreme Being level. Soon, he flew to the height where Baimei Sanren was and collected some resources. After collecting for a while, Night Sorrow's mind suddenly moved. He found that there was an Earth Supreme Being level spear at a higher position. Clan M. Chapter 3064. A real earthly, sovereign divine weapon. And it's a spear-shaped divine weapon. I must get it. The earthly, sovereign divine weapon in the void wasn't shining brightly. On the contrary, it was faintly discernible black light. The range of the black light wasn't more than 100 meters, but it gave off an extremely powerful aura. After seeing it clearly, Night Sorrow immediately activated the Sea Serpent's eye to confirm it, confirming that it was real and not a projection. He rose into the air again and flew towards the earthly, sovereign divine spear. Originally, only Night Sorrow and Baimei Sanren could reach this height. Baimei Sanren didn't have any intention of fighting for it. When Night Sorrow, who had activated the Treastrimsa battle mystic technique, rose to the vicinity of the earthly sovereign divine weapon. There were no other competitors. When he got closer, Night Sorrow didn't immediately take it. Instead, he said, "Fight with me." Although it was only 4 words, Yishan had said them with confidence, and a trace of soul attack technique was mixed into them. After he roared, his deep voice reverberated in the void. This was Night Sorrow's way of proving his strength. This was because he could already see that the earthly sovereign divine spear in front of him clearly had an artifact spirit. Moreover, the artifact spirit was also at the earthly sovereign level. Moreover, because it was a spear spirit, it gave off an extremely sharp feeling. It was very different from Little Seven on the 7th level of the Eternal Divine Tower. Night Sorrow could clearly tell that if he took it directly, he would definitely be met with an extremely violent counterattack. "You're not worthy." After about 3 breaths of time, the spear's spirit suddenly spoke with disdain. "Oh, then why do you think I'm worthy?" Night Sorrow didn't get angry immediately after being despised by the spear spirit. Instead, he continued to ask, "Those below the earthly sovereign level are all ants. They can't stimulate the Overlord's War Halberd's true strength, so you're not worthy." The Overlord's War Halberd's weapon spirit glanced at Night Sorrow, then at the other cultivators present, and said, "No one here is worthy. You're all trash. Little weapon spirit, you sure talk big. Since you think I'm not worthy, I'll prove it to you. Submit." The roaring Night Sorrow had originally intended to use peaceful means before resorting to force. With a roar, he reached out to grab the halberd. "How dare you? How dare you offend my Overlord's War Halberd? You're courting death." The weapon spirit of the Overlord War Halberd flew into a rage when it saw Night Sorrow trying to grab the halberd. Controlling the Overlord's War Halberd, he thrust it towards Night Sorrow's chest. Even if you were a real earthly sovereign. So what if you were an earthly sovereign? Facing the incoming Overlord battle halberd, Night Sorrow took out his golden heavenly halberd and performed his own Qingxian godly spear art. The Overlord's War Halberd began to fight. After advancing to the earthly sovereign realm, Night Sorrow's true fighting strength was comparable to a practitioner who had just advanced to the earthly sovereign realm. Facing the Overlord's War Halberd, he didn't feel much pressure. At most, he would face an opponent who was on par with him. Even though the golden heavenly halberd's grade was not as good as the Overlord's battle halberd, he was still able to handle it with ease. Soon, he was able to suppress it. After all, the Overlord's War Halberd was not a real earthly sovereign. Its fighting strength was relatively average. It was only slightly stronger than a half-step earthly sovereign. It was not at the level of a real earthly sovereign. "You are very talented, but I, the Overlord's War Halberd, will not submit to an earthly sovereign. If you are not an earthly sovereign, you will not be able to control me." The Overlord's War Halberd refused to accept the fact that it was being suppressed. It continued to resist Night Sorrow. In its eyes, only an earthly sovereign was worthy of using it. No matter how talented an earthly sovereign was, he was not qualified. Interesting. The weapon that said that last time has already been integrated into the golden heavenly halberd. I think your ending will be the same as it. The Overlord's War Halberd's grade was not bad. It was an earthly sovereign, but it was obviously unruly, just like what it had encountered before. Night Sorrow suddenly had the thought of integrating it into the golden heavenly halberd. Only then would it truly belong to him. "What? You want to integrate me? Dream on." Hearing that Night Sorrow wanted to integrate it, the weapon spirit of the Overlord's War Halberd was completely enraged. It roared and controlled the Overlord's War Halberd to transform into a warrior in purple armor. It then slashed at Night Sorrow violently. Very strong. Is this the previous owner of the Overlord's War Halberd? Indeed, he has the disposition of an Overlord. The Overlord's War Halberd's attack was very powerful. It was as if it could tear the heavens and earth apart. Even as an opponent, Night Sorrow could feel the unyielding fighting spirit of the Overlord. After praising him, Yishang sighed and said, "What a pity. Although you were unparalleled in martial prowess, You have already fallen. I must take the Overlord's war halberd." At the same time, Knight Sorrow used his pupil technique and shot it at the shadow. This ocular technique was comprehended by him during his battle with 100 Eyes. Its attack power was very strong. Light shot out from the eye of the sea serpent, and it immediately released a powerful aura that could destroy the heavens and earth. This overbearing aura was not inferior to the Overlord's war halberd's attack. Let's fight. If you win, the Overlord's war halberd is yours. If you lose, then you're not worthy. To Knight Sorrow's surprise, the shadow released by the Overlord's war halberd had its own consciousness. It had its own consciousness. Then, the shadow held the Overlord's war halberd in its hand and attacked, blocking the pupil technique. All right, then let's fight. If I can't even defeat your shadow, then I am not worthy of your Overlord's war halberd. Although the opponent in front of him was only a shadow, his aura was very powerful. This meant that he was not just an ordinary earthly sovereign when he was alive. He was very likely one of the strongest earthly sovereigns. Facing him, Knight Sorrow's fighting spirit completely exploded. All right, let's fight. My divine weapon is stronger than yours. Let's give up our divine weapons and fight in close combat. The shadow of the Overlord's war halberd's owner put down the war halberd and chose to fight in close combat with Knight Sorrow. No need. I, Knight Sorrow, don't want to take advantage of you. If I can't even defeat an earthly sovereign shadow, what's the point of fighting for the Overlord's war halberd? Knight Sorrow, who was holding the golden heavenly halberd, did not agree. He did not want to take advantage of his opponent. Very good. You have guts. The shadow of the Overlord's war halberd's owner roared and slashed horizontally at Knight Sorrow with the Overlord's war halberd. This move appeared to be very simple. It was like a general on the battlefield chopping down horizontally. But Knight Sorrow, who was facing it, felt that this move was not simple. This slash was like a blow that could split the heavens and earth. The momentum it contained was even more shocking than the momentum of the azure sea tide. Good. It is indeed the Overlord's momentum. The name of the war halberd is right. Facing this attack, Knight Sorrow roared and continued to use the azure cloud divine spear art to fight against it. The Overlord's war halberd was extremely terrifying to the golden heavenly halberd. He could not take it head on. He could only use his skills to fight against it. Clan M. Chapter 3065. Not bad. However, dodging is not what a king should do. The Overlord battle halberd's owner roared after fighting for a while. After he spoke, Knight Sorrow puffed out his chest and said, "A reckless man is not what a king should do." Knight Sorrow did not agree with the Overlord battle halberd's owner's words and replied. What they understood was different. On the surface, it was a simple conversation. However, it was their understanding of Tao. Reckless man? Hearing Knight Sorrow's words, the Overlord battle halberd's owner was stunned for a moment and said, "Since you said reckless man, then I'll let you have a taste of my reckless bull spear technique." As his voice fell, the Overlord battle halberd's owner immediately used the Overlord battle halberd to attack ferociously. Under such ferocious attacks, even if Knight Sorrow used his Qingxian divine spear technique, it would be hard for him to block. Although the other party's attack seemed very reckless, it was bold and bold. It contained the boldness of an angry man who would splatter blood in 5 steps. Good spear technique. The frenzied bull spear art's attacks were like a frenzied bull galloping madly. It was very impactful. Facing such unreasonable attacks, Knight Sorrow's golden heavenly halberd was indeed not easy to block. Because if he used it to block, the golden heavenly halberd might be in danger of breaking. Knight Sorrow did not want that. However, if he did not make such a choice, he would be suppressed. The Overlord battle halberd's owner's attack was simply arrogant and unforgiving. It was as ferocious as a tiger and a dragon. Just when Knight Sorrow was suppressed, the golden heavenly halberd suddenly trembled. Knight Sorrow, who was holding it in his hand, could instantly feel its unyielding battle intent. Being suppressed like this, its battle intent completely surged. Golden Heavenly Halberd, I can feel your battle intent. Then, let's fight to our heart's content. Knight Sorrow, who was holding the Golden Heavenly Halberd, felt the surging battle intent of the Golden Heavenly Halberd, and a heroic feeling rose in his heart. With the Golden Heavenly Halberd in hand, he once again used the Qingxian godly spear art to fight against the Overlord Halberd's master shadow. After choosing to meet force with force in this attack, Knight Sorrow spear technique was clearly superior in terms of technique. However, after the Golden Heavenly Halberd collided with the Overlord's War Halberd, cracks immediately appeared. Clearly, there was a huge gap between the Golden Heavenly Halberd and the Overlord Battle Halberd. Kill. However, in this sort of situation, the Golden Heavenly Halberd actually said the word kill. Hearing this, Knight Sorrow's heart was filled with killing intent. At this moment, in front of him, no matter what, nothing could stop the determination in his heart. Golden Heavenly Halberd. Kill. Knight Sorrow roared as he poured his divine origin energy and merit power into the Golden Heavenly Halberd. Then, he performed the human spear unification technique. Together, they charged towards the Overlord's War Halberd. Knight Sorrow had learned this man's spear fusion from the Myriad sword sect, but it had been a long time since he had used it. After becoming one with the spear, the aura released by the spear was clearly stronger. Boom! When the Golden Heavenly Halberd and the Overlord Battle Halberd clashed once again. Both of them were pushed back a lot. Knight Sorrow and the Golden Heavenly Halberd were separated, and the Golden Heavenly Halberd was broken in the middle. As for the Overlord Battle Halberd, it was also broken. Both of them were basically on par. Broken? My Overlord Battle Halberd was broken by a half-step, earthly, sovereign divine weapon. The illusory figure of the Overlord Battle Halberd was floating in the void, looking at the broken Overlord Battle Halberd in disbelief. After pondering for a long time, he sighed and said, forget it. It's yours now. As for me, it's time for me to leave." After saying that, the illusory figure of the Overlord Battle Halberd turned into a rain of light in the void and completely dissipated. Knight Sorrow, who was slightly injured, summoned the Golden Heavenly Halberd into his hand. He stroked it gently and said, "Don't worry, I will fix you. Not only will I fix you, but I will also make you stronger." After that, Knight Sorrow merged the broken Overlord Battle Halberd into the Golden Heavenly Halberd. No matter how tough the Overlord Battle Halberd was, it did not belong to him. However, the Golden Heavenly Halberd was different. The Golden Heavenly Halberd had already merged perfectly with Knight Sorrow. Not only this time, but in the future, he was not going to let any other divine weapon take its place. If there was something good, let it devour it. After that, Knight Sorrow floated in the void, trying his best to forge a brand new Golden Heavenly Halberd. However, this time was different from the previous time. After Knight Sorrow repaired the Golden Heavenly Halberd, he realized that although it was as tough as an earthly sovereign, it did not have the aura of an earthly sovereign divine weapon. Why is that? Standing in the void, Knight Sorrow was puzzled. An ordinary divine weapon was either a half-step earthly sovereign divine weapon or an earthly sovereign divine weapon. However, the Golden Heavenly Halberd was in between the two. This is because your strength is not enough, and the earthly sovereign rules and essence that you have infused into it is not enough. Therefore, the spear in your hand is still a bit away from the earthly sovereign rules and essence. At this time, Bai Mei Sanren, who was 1,000 meters away from Knight Sorrow, explained, "Is that so? Is that so?" Knight Sorrow understood what was going on. When he spoke, he was thinking about something. Therefore, his words were not coherent. It's like this. However, it should still have the potential to continue growing. I think that if you can advance to an intermediate sovereign, you should be able to make it a real, earthly, sovereign divine weapon. However, When it advances, it will face an extremely terrifying lightning tribulation. You have to be prepared. Baime Sanrin continued. Thank you, Senior. Knight Sorrow held the brand new golden heavenly halberd and flew to Baime Sanrin's side. He said, Senior, I have suffered some injuries and need to recover. After I recover, let's go to the Grotto Heaven together. What do you think? Huh, sure. That's exactly what I want. Baime Sanrin said with a smile. All right, Senior, wait for me. Knight Sorrow said, and once again rose to a height where no one could see him. In the void, he consumed some high-grade elixirs that he had just obtained and recovered. An opportunity like this would not last for long. Therefore, he did not want to waste too much time on recovering from his injuries. After about 2 hours, Knight Sorrow had completely recovered. He flew to Baime Sanrin's side and said, Senior, let's go. Let's go to the teleportation portal together. All right. However, I have to remind you that the Grotto Heaven is very dangerous. On the way to the teleportation portal, Baime Sanrin explained, the actual masters of the 3 Grotto Heavens are Tianxiao territory, Ming Yin territory, and Immortal Extinction territory. If you go in, you will offend them. You have to think carefully. The 3 Grotto Heavens are actually controlled by them. Jingyan did not know about this at all because the armored zombie's memory did not have it. This was also the first time Baime Sanrin mentioned it. Hearing this, Knight Sorrow immediately understood why Tianxiao territory would send such a lineup. They were preparing to guard the Grotto Heaven's opportunity. Genius memorized this site's address in a second. Human Mobile Version Reading Website. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.